Hi, welcome to Expanded Understanding. I'm Zach. Aaron's here too.
I'm Aaron. Hi.
I'm Zach and I'm Aaron. I would like to thank you all for being here tonight. It is the 14th of May, and today was pretty awesome for me. So many weird things. And I titled the stream Tiamat is Rising, thinking that we'll probably spend some time talking about the rise of feminine energy from a multidimensional or esoteric perspective on planet Earth and how that is assisting in the awakening process and functionally shifting us to a different dimensionality of ourselves through kind of the aspect of, well, at least in the term of Tiamat, kind of Sumerian mythology and the function of the three gods of Tiamat, Abzu, and Anu, which really give us a good understanding of kind of a neutral, a positive, and a negative, or a feminine, masculine, androgen kind of format that allows us to really explore that concept and explains a lot of the symbolism that we're seeing in recent time, because these are very powerful symbols. And so pretty excited to go into that. I've basically studied it my entire life, so we're just going to kind of randomly talk about it, see what's up, and see how you guys feel about what kind of questions that you guys have. We are podcasting every single night at 8 o'clock until we get tired and go to sleep. Starting next week, we got a bunch of other segments coming up. Jen's probably going to do a segment that if you're watching last night, you can see that she basically already did her segment. She's going to start doing a show all the time. She's got all kinds of cool ideas for that. We got yoga happening. We got group meditations happening. We got a new show with Angela. We got a new show with Kala. We're trying to get Paula to come on here and do something. Hopefully Paula and Kala, because that's just weird names. Trying to get something with Frank Castle. We got a bunch of cool guests lined up for the future. All kinds of basically fun stuff and interesting stuff. And, doing a lot of things as a community. Got a whole lot coming together. Check out the description below for liking, subscribing, following the social platforms, fundraisers that we're doing to help out the shippable people of the Amazon jungle, as they are basically not getting any money right now. Their Amazon jungle is getting destroyed by machinery, and they're basically getting ravaged by a disease. And they don't really have any way to help with it. And also on top of that, they make most of their money from travelers from other places who currently cannot enter the country. So, they're having a tough time. We're trying to help them out. I work directly with a shaman of a village called San Francisco down there, who oversees about 100 families in that village and makes sure that they get all the stuff that they need, disperses them. He's been doing that all his life. That's what he does. Basically, the chief of the village, named Dio de Mero Minas. He's a wonderful individual, and hopefully one day all of us will be able to meet him when we sit in ceremony with him and let him guide us with his fantastic songs that are widely known to be some of the greatest songs that have ever existed in the lower Ucayali region of the Amazon rainforest. So very excited about life. A lot of cool stuff coming up. A lot of cool stuff going on here. Some new people that I talked to today might be here. Would definitely like to say hi to, well, Jenna's in here. That's one of them. Jenna Sidex, good to see you here. Willow, good to see you here. Charlotte, good to see you here. Jasmine, Layla, it's good to see you again. Well, I haven't really heard from Layla in like a month. Layla's super awesome. Been talking to her for a long time. She has a cool story, all kinds of cool stuff that she does. Really glad to have her back around. Jacob, so glad that you're here listening to this rather than just a whir of machinery, although that can be a very meditative state as well. So super happy to have you here. Brittany, good to see you back again. And yeah, Jen's lurking somewhere, I know, because I can hear the podcast in the other room. So really good to see all of you tonight. Aaron, how are you doing?
Good. I don't know, how do you describe at the end of the day when you woke up in the morning into a different reality? I don't know. Still adjusting, but it's good. It's all good.
It is definitely all good if you choose to perceive it that way. I really like, especially a lot of the people that I talked to today, and just like kind of my local network of individuals that are close to me. We all very much so feel like we moved into a different reality today, and we've all very purposely been trying to do that. Really feels like a lot of confirmation and stuff I think all of us have been working on pretty much all our life. It's getting pretty amazing. Super glad to have more people coming in here, and you guys always sticking around. Really appreciate it. So excited for what we're going to do as a group. I went on a walk with Joe, another guy who's in the chat a lot, who also lives with us, and then Jen as well. And it was like we had so many cool ideas while we were doing it. And then when we get to the end of this walk, we talked about the randonauting thing before. We didn't really walk to a random location. Like they wanted to show me this place where there's like these 3 little groves of trees. And kind of the idea was to walk up to the little groves of trees, but we got like right before we got to the trees, we kind of got sideswiped by this culvert that had recently been installed. That's just like it's just a tube for water, really, but with the way that it is and shaped and everything, like not only does it sound like one of the most amazing, like huge didgeridoos you've ever heard in your life, and we're definitely gonna
Well,
like we want to like play some didgeridoo inside of there,
oh fuck
but then
yeah,
also on top of that we like Jen and I were playing with like me toning a certain chakra tone and her toning the one either right above that and below that, or her toning like heart and me skipping between like throat and solar
dude.
plexus and getting this
Totally.
cool, like when I did that one you could like feel the overtone waving through the it was amazing. And then
Cool.
I
Fuck
started
yeah.
thinking of all these other ideas because it's like a 90-degree tunnel, right? Like having
Yeah, yeah.
someone down on this side, someone down on this side, and then someone in the middle doing the right tone, so there's like this 3-part harmonic coagulation right here that creates this
Yeah.
crazy overtone inside of it, or like even having 2 people in each spot doing their own harmonic overtone and then getting like 3 overtones
Dude,
inside. Oh my
totally.
god, it was so
Yeah.
amazing. And then when I like came out of it, I kind of like started looking around at how it was positioned and everything, and I realized it was like really pointing kind of interestingly at this hill, right? And so like I decided to, like, Joe had his phone with him. I got him to download a star map app, right? And then like
Yeah.
the line that's in the concrete out of it, I just set the phone on it and looked at it, and it points directly to Draco being on the horizon, which is right next to Hercules, which has that crux constellation we were talking about. And if you go straight up from it, dead on with Arcturus. What the fuck just happened? It was
And
just incredible.
Draco is what the Superman lines up with. Constellation Draco. Yeah, right
Yeah,
on.
and there's a lot
I think
with, like,
we
honestly
got to
I could
do
talk
that.
about Draco for like all day long. And you know, obviously it's going to be a timing thing. Those things do move around and such, but it was just so interesting that like the time we got there and we decided to check it and everything, I was in
Yeah,
this
no
really
doubt.
nice alignment. We played with the sound. It was super fun. Bunch of good
Awesome.
ideas. Like it was
Yep.
really like I felt like a kid just going out and walking out, and then I'm
Yep.
just making noises in a tunnel and shit, and like it was so cool. So
Oh yeah. We're doing that when I get there for sure.
Jacob, it was like being inside of a big flute. Like I would love to hear you play the flute. That's like it's got the 2 things. Like you know what I'm talking about. Playing that thing inside of there, because the reverberation is so interesting, because it's like it's this concrete pipe that's basically built into sand, so it's not actually entirely stable. It's kind of like a flute itself, but then it's also 90 degrees, and the top part of it goes up a hill. So it's like it's got a really interesting reverberation.
Cool.
It's amazing. I'd love to hear you play a flute, and that would be so cool. Or get like multiple flutes going. Oh my god! Like the ideas are endless. I'm so excited about this thing, and it's
I'm bringing my flute. Plus Jen's got her flute. That'll be cool, man. One of
yeah,
many awesome things we're gonna do over there for sure.
yes, yes, for sure. I'm so excited, honestly.
Yeah, no
I'm so
doubt.
excited for everything recently.
I know,
Honestly,
like the whole thing
I
was
feel
like
like
this
a kid in
massive
a
explosion
candy
of
store.
excitement. Yeah, and I just put a pin in it because that's gonna happen. Great.
Yeah.
What else?
Yeah, like recently, honestly, I've like I went through a period where I like really had to focus on trying to like get the most out of a situation. But in recent times, the rapidity of really cool situations has been so high that like almost if I stay focused on one for too long, I like miss the next one. You know what I
Totally.
mean?
Yeah. That's what we
It's
find.
really
Great
cool.
idea. So me and Frank started doing this, like, um, or when we get an idea for something, right? Ethereal or him teleporting or him whatever, some shit. Like we build a bunch of energy into it, get really excited about it, throw in the vortex, and just fucking let it go. And then we
Mm,
practice shit or do other shit, and it always comes around for sure.
mm. Hell yeah.
But building as much emotional, visceral, emotion or feeling, I guess, since we were talking about the last 2 days, as much feeling as you can and emanating that out into the vortex is what I mean. It's basically you're embodying the feeling of actually having done it, the
Hmm.
excitement, the joy, the reality of it, just the settled reality of it, and
Hmm.
embodying all of that emotion and feeling, like stirring it up as intense as you can, getting all excited, ee!
Yeah.
Like
If you
letting the
haven't
tail
already
start up.
watched it, a couple days ago we did a video, a podcast that ended up titled "Feeling Is Prayer," where we kind of go into Greg Braden's video that is titled that, and also some stuff about Tom Campbell, and then just our own thoughts on basically using feeling to accomplish a result. And definitely inside of, like at least the group that I know that's been working with this, the results are really just incredible. So like definitely take the time to watch this video and give it a shot. It's pretty amazing.
11-11.
11-11. We're all in a line. Wonder what that meant.
Two paths coming together, all ones, new energy. People associate that to an angel numbers. Never really connected with angels with 1111. It means a lot of other things to me, but you know,
Mm-hmm.
all that good shit.
Hi,
Hi,
Sam.
Sam.
Good to see you. I clicked it on, you clicked it off. You
Oh,
click it on,
there
I
we go.
click it off.
I clicked that on. Click
Get
that
it
off.
on.
Take that out.
Oh,
Put that
man.
on.
So, anyways, I would love to hear what you guys are up to today. If anything cool happened in your life, or there's anything neat coming up in the future, or you have any cool ideas that you would like help with, I'm all about the ideas right now, even though like my to-do list is pretty long, but
We're
it's
also
going
at,
good.
well, now down 17. We're at 18 live viewers. I think that's, I mean, well, Grain Effect Arcturian show, we had like 50 or something. That was coming right off Frank's and some other stuff. But in general, I think we have like 9 to 12, maybe 15. We had like 18. We got 17. So, all right.
Yeah, we've been
Thank you.
deviating around. We had a lull in energy as we dealt with basically the integration of the slug energy
No
that
doubt,
caused a
man.
bit of a dip, but we're back from it now. A new launch pad.
That
So
one is episode 10, which is Safe Sacred Space Part 2. We end up going into an organic slug meditation, connecting with slug consciousness. It's really one of the coolest
yeah.
fucking things that ever happened, ever. And it's all
So
on video.
if you want a guided meditation to connect your consciousness in a safe space with a slug, and that's a thing that you've been searching for on the internet, it's out there now. It's
Or
titled
if you
Safe
haven't been
Sacred
searching
Space
for it,
Part 2.
I tell you, you heard it right now and you go, holy shit, that sounds super interesting. It is titled Safe Sacred Space Part 2 in our playlist.
This is fantastic right here. Mel is saying, is anyone else still glowing from gently playing the flute and just the overall convos from last night? I have been beaming since. It's so amazing because Jen's like, she's been here, she's been in the chat and everything. Yeah, she lives with me and stuff, but like we were doing the podcast, she's doing her own thing and whatever. And then she decides to come on here. She's really like a strong community member the whole time. Then comes on here and then you guys feel like that about it. Like this is what the community thing can do. I mean, if you come in here and you feel like uncomfortable getting on here and stuff, hang out in the chat for a while, become friends with everybody, because you're going to get on here someday probably and share your story, and it's going to have somebody end up saying stuff like this about you talking about it, and it's going to feel great, and it's going to be a catalyst for positive growth inside of your life, and it's going to be just an all-around fun time, and I'm excited to hear it whenever it happens. So happy it resonated with you. Is that a flute joke? Is that a flute pun? Resonated?
Yeah, you should have put that in quotes too. Then it'd been intentional.
Jacob still has a smile on his face from listening to Jen play. It'll be cool to catch a duo between you guys sometime in a high-quality recording. Sample it. Probably not put any filters on your guys' flute playing, but put some nice drums and maybe some ambient tones around it, maybe some chanting, maybe some layered chanting, or like offset so that the chant is starting at you have 4 beats in a bar usually. If we offset the chant starting on that with a chant that primarily revolves around 4-syllable words, would be like super cool. Yeah, lots of great ideas with that. I'm so excited with the creators in here to basically get these like collaborative creations that are really coming together just because like you're leveraging like their thing into it, to see the multimedia creations that will come out of it, which I have a place that's being created in my mind that houses all of this, right? Like, but I have these ideas and just these huge installations that are just so multi-sensory, and the way that the space is built in terms of architecture, the materials that it uses, the lights inside of there, the sounds, the smells, the people, the energy that's built in there normally, the location of it, like literally everything about it is just perfectly tuned to like bliss, and the way that this space is going to feel like I live inside of that space every day when I'm dancing, and oh my word, it feels good. Like that place is going to be great. Word of the day. We did not have a word of the day. I did not find one.
I can find one right now. How about, well, we got blown out of the water with anti-disestablishmentarianism. What was the other word that
there was a word that somebody brought antiphagy. Was that the word that I think Andrew brought in last night?
Yeah, that was one of them. And then he had that one. The other
autophage.
Okay, so the word of the day on dictionary.com on the app is insufflate. Insufflate? Yeah, insufflate. To blow or breathe something in. They handed a trumpet to the old man, who put it to the lips of the two creatures still suspended in their vegetable lethargy, their sweet animal sleep. They began to insufflate soul into their bodies. Huh.
Insufflation.
Insufflate.
Yeah, that's the politically correct way, basically, of saying that you're going to snort something.
Gonna do a little insufflate later tonight.
Yeah.
Get all insufflated up. I'm gonna insufflate the shit out of myself.
Yeah. I wonder, blow or breathe on someone to symbolize spiritual influence. See, that's interesting because when we use it in like the medical way, we generally think about like it says blow into a cavity of the body, but then theologically it's saying blowing or breathing on them to symbolize spiritual influence rather than actually into them, which is pretty coincidental. Like that's kind of weird. You know what I mean? It's like the opposite terms, right? They don't mean the same thing, but we're using the same word.
Right. Well, this specifically says for a second definition, blow or breathe on someone to symbolize spiritual influence. Yeah. That's interesting. So, I've noticed, speaking of, I guess, breath or insufflating during entheogen experiences or just different experiences with people. So I found breath to be profoundly, I could say healing, but it's more than healing. It's not just healing. It's like it does a lot of shit, man. It moves a lot of energy, like breath on the skin, or breath at different moments and meditations, or breath just in the atmosphere at different times. It makes a huge difference. Moving air, moving things in spirit. I don't know. There's a lot of connections there, but I've had a lot of interesting things with insufflation.
Yeah. It actually, like, if you go back to etymology, it functionally means in, under, to blow, or into, under, to blow.
Yeah.
So
beneath the surface, another layer too, a spiritual connotation.
Yeah. In its ecclesiastical use, a breathing upon was to symbolize the influence of the Holy Ghost or to expel evil spirits. That was its original use.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So the idea, I mean, and in a certain way, this is just like another way of like the focus, right? Like you're projecting the energy this time instead of maybe doing it with like a thought or with actually touching them, but you're just instead blowing there with that same focused intention and symbolically bringing that focus into some kind of thing that you believe does something, in this case, expel evil spirits in the 1570s.
Well, it's just even novelty, right? Because I've seen in a lot of different, charismatic services, church services that are legitimate, like that are beautiful. There is the Holy Spirit or heart brain coherence in the room. There's an actual atmosphere that's different. And when people do novel things, like I remember this one guy, he would instead of like laying your hands on you or people would fall over, when he'd bring people up the stage, and it was in an atmosphere that was very inviting and very friendly. It wasn't hoaxy or, because I know it can get skewed like that. I don't know if people have experienced, but there's a lot of really beautiful, pure, healing, amazing shit that happens in those contexts when it's in the right setting. And this guy would call people up and he'd blow, like he'd hold their hand or lightly have their hand on them and just blow like their direction. And they would fall out, twitching on the floor, like crazy ass shit, just from blowing, right? And I've had my own experiences like that too. So just changing the modality instead of laying hands on them or whatever, you blow. It's amazing how the nervous system will respond, especially when it didn't expect that.
It's interesting that Jacob brings this up because, like, we've technically been talking about this insufflation the whole time because I'm talking about this, like, we listened to didgeridoo music coming into this, and we were talking about flutes right away inside of a place where you're, like, making tones inside of it, which you're just, all of this, we've been talking about insufflation the whole time.
Right, and in that concrete tube, and all that shit. Yeah, right on.
Yeah. And Joe wants to know when Jen's coming back on. So, Jen, if you want to come back on, we can just hand the show over to you, and Aaron and I will go do other stuff.
Yeah, it's totally fine, really. We do it every night.
Fine.
It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, no problem. I like how the first definition in that word is in the context of medicine, and the flute, for me, is sound medicine. Yeah, it's interesting that it's like spirit plus medicine. Insufflation is very much so how you use the flute, and oftentimes the flute is considered like this, like you're saying, like the sound medicine created by it. That's such a crazy correlation. with that. And the idea that like really like people's sound medicine, like what are you trying to do on a certain symbol set, right? Like you're trying to expel an evil spirit. That evil spirit is whatever is causing a dis-ease to the body. And so you're trying to blow that sound into them through insufflating into the flute resonant cavity, creates this sound that then expels evil spirits with a specific geometry. Like, what the hell kind of witchcraft is this? You know? Like,
Sounds like a pretty good technology. Pretty good
yeah.
witchcraft.
Yeah, like it makes sense. It's like a fractal thing. Like it totally makes sense. You're just like basically feeding back the power of the insufflation, which is already the representation of the Holy Spirit, right? So it's through that feedback building on itself, and you get like this big thing of the Holy Spirit that now can be heard. It's not just, you know what I mean?
100%. Yep. Awesome. Well done.
And a didgeridoo is also that. That's probably, I bet you that's why whatever you call them, aboriginals, which is racist, but you know, that's best I can do. So those people, natives of what we now call Australia. Okay. Is that
Yep.
okay? I
Correctly
don't know.
said.
Nevertheless,
Yep.
they use you know, this is where that didgeridoo is popularized. And you know, this is just like a weird format of flute, you know. It's in a
Yeah.
certain way like a simple flute. It's like a big simple flute.
Totally. Well, have you ever played shofars before or animal horns?
Nope.
Dude, shofars are cool shit, man. I used a shofar for a while because the Hebrew dynamic, but the energy that
Is
comes out of
that
that shit, I play that.
CHOFAR or SHO?
Uh,
SHO.
yeah, it's SHOFAR usually. It's how it's spelled. I don't know the proper spelling, but
A
yeah, there's all
ram's
sorts
horn
of good ones.
trumpet used by ancient Jews in religious ceremonies and as a battle signal now sounded at Rosh Hashanah and Yom
Mm-hmm.
Kippur. Yeah, this is a pretty. Yeah, there's actually the guy that we were listening to the music of. One of his things, his whatever splash screen or whatever you call it. It's actually a picture of him playing one of these things. Not this specific image right here, but similar to that.
Yeah, totally, 100%. Yeah, I mean that's very traditional way, and that's a long. Which one? Which one of those horns? I don't think that one's a ram's horn. That one's a antelope. I don't know. Whatever another one is. The ram's horns are more traditional. They're shorter, and then there's bigger and bigger ones. Depends on the type of animal. It's supposed to be cut from a kosher animal, and I don't know, there's a bunch of other shit. Anyway, they're really cool, man. They make really cool sounds and do a lot of stuff with energy. It's great. We're gonna really oversimplify that.
Yeah, it seems like it would be a, you know, pretty standard good resonant cavity, and since kind of the natural expression of physical bodies is to follow that like phi progression, it should be like pretty well tuned just because it's a natural object.
100%.
I mean, natural progression like that. Pretty cool. So horns and stuff,
cool.
sound healing. Sound healing is like the coolest, and at least I think it is in recent times. Like I loved music massively like all my life, but I never really like respected it as this thing that was able to have these, I guess, like effects that were more grand than just like, yeah, that sounds good. I like that, right? And so it's been so interesting to me over the last, I don't know, I guess like 4 or 5 years of my life, watching like the power of sound emerge into my life. It's been very cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, 'cause obviously with toning and crystal bowls and I mean all that kind of shit, they have different resonances with different parts of the body and organs in the body and nervous system, and so they cause an emotional response or they can help to bring an emotional disposition internally. But like regular music, listening to regular music or whatever it is for you or whatever, you know, on any given day. I mean, I don't when I listen to music, it's incredibly visceral. Like it's full every sensation or emotion I can have usually when I'm listening to music, engaging it in some way. Even if it's all internal, not necessarily dancing or whatever, which should do that too. But I mean, listen to it through the day or, you know, whatever. Yeah, it's again that internal emotional disposition. That's why it's not. I mean, there is truth to like obviously with the what's the Japanese guy again, Masamoto, the frozen water crystals, words,
Dr.
intentions, water.
Emoto. I don't remember what his first
Emoto.
name was.
Yeah, you're right, Emoto. So obviously there's some. I think that some experiments they did was with like classical music versus like really heavy hardcore rock music or something. And I don't know what they use, but they cause different. The rock music or some cause more chaotic crystals to form, and then the classical music was more the pure, beautiful geometric patterns, all that shit. But that being said, just because there is some truth to the way the music affects water, right? For sure, in the water in your cells. The emotional state inside of you, if that music is doing something for you that causes an emotional state, that emotional state, internal disposition, is far more superior to the external sound coming in.
Yeah, that feeling's probably doing more to sculpt the structure of the water inside your vessel than the sound coming outside. Totally. I would agree with that.
Yeah, and so it's that, like, just that, like, understanding that, really developing that over the last few, or I don't know, a couple years ago, it kind of settled in. But like, yeah, just really understanding music and why everybody can like whatever music. It doesn't matter if it sounds to you in a way that's aggressive or angry or, you know, whatever, or any which way. Like, sure. It matters how it's creating a feeling state inside of another person.
Yeah, you know? It's kind of like another testament to the power of sound. It can create such a wide range of feelings. It's kind of up to you to navigate towards the music that generates the feeling you're trying to generate.
Right. Yeah, because feeling is the prayer. Because feeling is the prayer. Feeling is the prayer.
Although there is some credence to like a specific kind of sound being able to generate a specific kind of result, or at least it seems that way. Totally. If you work with like ayahuasqueros in the Amazon, you'll end up in situations where you can tell that they're like modifying your experience with their voice.
Oh, I bet. You know? Yeah.
So it's really interesting with that. Like, I mean, really like to the full extent to where it seems like pretty much their song is in control of the reality, or as though the reality is created by their song. Like it's pretty nuts. So because you really feel like I'm in a super visceral experience created by sound. It's like you're in their little sound bubble or whatever. It's pretty weird.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I've got these two little speakers that I take with me. So but I've got two of these little triangle speakers. Yeah. And they match up, and so you can do stereo or just a left right stereo or just a dual stereo. And I take them like doing around campfires or shit. And being able to just move around or walk around with the speakers, especially if you're not the one walking around, like if you're doing it around somebody. It is so fucking cool, man. The way the different sound fields are created, where you position the speakers in different parts of the fire, like it creates like exactly what you're saying. It creates a whole like realm around the fire at different times. It makes it. It's really cool. And it's just these little speakers. Totally. They work really well.
Yeah, those new like the Bluetooth speakers and stuff. It's surprising actually how good they are at filling space, especially if you use like some of the the little like household hacks for making your phone be better, but you just do it with that, like you put it inside like a bucket or whatever, and it's like it's in another speaker, a speaker and a speaker. Yeah, and on the like Icaros, exactly like Icaros, exactly like that. Yeah. Very interesting though these songs, very interesting. So what's really interesting is how they create them in a certain way, because really the way that new ones come about is through women of the tribe actually seeing them, but they see them through the use of eye drops that are made from an admixture of plants that when put in a woman's eyes cause psychedelic visions, but when put in a man's eyes have no psychoactive effect.
Awesome. I love that shit. That's cool.
Yeah.
Physiology, man. DNA, skin suit, nuances. It's all good, but that's cool, man. They figured that shit out a long time ago. Knew how to do that, and for just the women. I mean, just cool shit, man.
It's interesting to think about. Have any of you ever listened to the Mind Orchestra? It rings a bell. I don't really remember what.
I don't either. Yeah.
Let me bring that up here.
We have Google. Oh, she said. Brittany said sangria.
It's sound healing. It's sound healing. A sound healing modality. I would kind of, or a group of them. I don't know. There's themindorchestra.com if you want to check out specifically.
Those drops, Zach, what were do you know what they were called? She said sangria.
Those drops are called.
You realize that's wine.
Those drops are called pira pira. You're probably thinking of sananga, or the person who would give it would be a sanangero. This is the thing that's like sangria, which is not the same. This stuff is called pira pira.
Yeah, it's pretty close. It makes sense.
And so I'm presuming, so this Mind Orchestra stuff is just some people who do sound healing, and they have some sound healing, looks like music on YouTube, and Yeah, I will look at. I'm gonna look at it while we're talking to see whether or not I can play it on here without getting copyright strikes. But
Yeah.
maybe we'll hear some of it when I find out whether or not that will happen. They have a song I'm interested in because the name of it is Nomad, and I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like I can probably get away with it. Yeah, it's Creative Commons, available for free download and sharing using Creative Commons. Yeah, I can get away with playing this. Really, if we want to. In a little while, we'll go to a break. We'll listen to a 7-minute song called Nomad by the Mind Orchestra to check them out and hear what they sound like. They're probably super cool. So
Mm-hmm.
Charlotte likes neat stuff. Yeah. So,
So,
anyways, yeah. Let's see. Well, that's kind of like good lead in, like this idea of the rise of the feminine, right? Well, there's a
yep.
reason.
So,
There's benefits to the masculine. There's benefits to the feminine. There's benefits to being androgenized. Androgenization is really mastery of both sides simultaneously. So you kind of got to go to both in order to do it. But as I think anybody could probably notice, the feminine aspect of ourselves has been, for to be generous, slightly repressed on this earth for a small amount of time. These are huge. These are huge exaggerations, honestly, and
yeah.
it's been a really long time, and it's ridiculously repressed. So, nevertheless, it has definitely been emerging in many different ways. We've seen this through the whole like LGBTQ kind of movements, the blurring of the lines of like basically gender with that, the blurring of the lines of like what relationships are basically like, the rise of polyamory as a concept more and more in culture all the time. These
Mm-hmm.
movements away from functionally the nuclear family that we had set up, which while the nuclear family has all the parts that you would expect in a mother, a father, a son, and a daughter, realistically it's a very patriarchal type of situation. It's very much so like even the walls of your house are very much so that you don't just let anybody in and out of your house because you know that like your space is safe. You make sure that you lock the doors and the fucking windows to make sure everybody stays out. This functionally makes the inside a prison, despite the fact that it makes the outside you can't get in, so you're safe. But nevertheless, this is a good metaphor, I feel, very active metaphor for what basically culture looks like, anyways, from a grander perspective. And we see this in a whole bunch of different ways. This is known to a lot of people, and this isn't really about like, no reason to get into that. You can listen to thousands of feminism channels and stuff that will talk about how basically women have been oppressed. I'm the opposite direction. I'm talking about how women are rising back up, or really actually the emergence of the feminine. It's not just women, even inside of men like myself, or inside of Aaron, or literally like hundreds of other men that I know. Really, the last many years of their life have been a progressive moving forward of coming to understand their own interaction with their feminine inner child, their feminine sides of them. Lots of work on the idea of the mother, lots of work with relationships with other women as we try to understand ourselves better in our feminine aspects. And the people who have really been doing this work have progressively been coming to a greater level of androgyny. And as a byproduct of this learning about the feminine, we do have an emergence of love, or what you could call at one point in time an age of Aquarius, right? We have a rising of this feminine energy that is actually bringing our emotions back and allowing them to flow more freely. Aquarius is the water bearer, but it's also actually an air sign. Air signs are good communicators. Water bearer, though, insinuates that it's communicating about emotions, right? Because water is emotions, but being an air sign, it is a communicator of emotions. So we're getting better at communicating those both to others and ourselves, and this path is taking place in a whole lot of ways. This has been talked about as basically this side of ourselves in a whole bunch of different ways. When we're talking about twin flames or divine counterparts or whatever you want to do like this, there's a lot of names for it. A lot of them are really not what you're going for if you take time to dig into what the word really actually means. But one metaphor of this is the Sumerian metaphor of Tiamat and Tiamat's consort Abzu. And functionally, Tiamat is this feminine format of this expression, oftentimes seen as a very strong god. And inside of the Epic of Gilgamesh, basically summons, well, the metaphor of the 7 things that are bad or good for the world. Tiamat is the reason that these are in the world, because when Tiamat was going after Marduk, because Marduk had slain Abzu, Tiamat summoned forth these 7 demons and basically came down into this realm functionally to attack Marduk. Marduk is a representation of the patriarchal warlike father that we have kind of running the position right now. Marduk being associated obviously in the first syllable with Mars, and Mars being the warlike planet or the war god. All of these kinds of things are there, and it's funny that I say "our" right there, and that we say "ours" and things like this, but we say it like "ours" is because this ram is also like Ares in the sense of Ares, right? So that is also like a god of war as well, and this thing is very much so this god of war. In many ways, this kind of concept could be looked at as how basically some format of man stepped in the way of the natural order of the feminine and the masculine being in connection with one another, and got in the way and basically started causing problems with this. Before that point in time, functionally, this space would have been held by Anu. Anu is where we get the concept of our current year and everything like that. The idea that it is an annual cycle. This is still a reverence to Anu. Anu was the god of time, but really Anu was like this center point, the neutral central point with its feminine aspect of Tiamat and its masculine aspect of Abzu. The very much so this Tiamat energy is settling back into the world. It's functionally just a very high dimensional energy, and really you could look at this story as functionally just being an expression of how we ourselves got out of balance with these sides of ourselves, and functionally we are the war inside of ourselves, right? Like we are Marduk sitting in the middle. That's we believe we are powerful to the extent that we do, but in actuality we're kind of imbalancing the process, and we have to come to learn about ourselves to resolve this. This can also be looked, if you choose to be from more of a place where other things are trying to like attack you, or a battle metaphor, as though some other type of entity stepped in here into the process. And then if you were looking at it that way, functionally as our job as wanting to be an expression of unleashed consciousness, to get this thing, this Marduk, right? It's a duke, a landowner. It's holding space, but it's marred. It's dirty. It's not right. It's smudged, incorrect, right? Like a smudged version of the ruler, to basically clean that thing out, get it out of the way, reestablish the proper functional connection of Tiamat and Abzu, otherwise known as the feminine and masculine aspects of the universe, causing that connectivity to come back together and reconnecting the natural cycle of things, which if you believe that functionally we live inside of a matrix, this matrix would have to be created by isolating a space with functionally a wall, and functionally that wall would be what's keeping us disconnected from these things. You can put whatever number of dimensions you want on it or anything like that, but really when we're talking about Tiamat, we're talking about basically the primal. We can use the word sacred, but know that that's not actually an ideal word if you're really trying to program yourself very specifically with your words. So it's an anagram of scared, and that's not good. So nevertheless, this idea of like the highest possible feminine concept, what I often refer to as like the feminine void space, this aspect of ourselves can functionally be understood as Tiamat. And inside of that illogical, intuitive, this thing is where we do actually get the greatest format of our feminine aspects that we experience inside of this matrix. But functionally, this is also our doorway to what is an infinite potential void space outside of that. And by coming to understand this energy, you really functionally unleash yourself to a place where, well, reality just doesn't look the same. It's not really just being put together and happening all on its own, but rather you're understanding a cohesive flow of energy that is an inpouring of potential turning into possibility that sometimes gets to the center point and actually exists. And but you start to understand the merging of these forces as they coalesce inside of that by better understanding the masculine and feminine aspects of yourself. Oftentimes utilizing stories is one of the best ways to do that, but you want to go with stories that actually align with you. The Tiamat Abzu thing is very prominent inside of my own life, and I think it's worthwhile for it to be prominent inside of other people's lives, because functionally, as far as we call history, we say that in history, like Sumerian civilization is supposedly our first civilization. There's thousands of arguments to this. They're probably all right. This is probably not actually true. We probably had very functional culture before that. But as far as our modern history says, we say that basically it started in Sumeria with the cultivation of agriculture and writing. Functionally, when we had a language and we had agriculture, then we really have what we call like a society. And so the Sumerian culture in basically the Fertile Crescent, Mesopotamia, the area around Baghdad, Turkey, this kind of area. This is the place where Sumerian culture originally was. In fact, the Sumerian capital of Ur, which basically means the driving power inside of us, kind of like the prima materia or the ignis that sits behind the person and drives them, the Uru. So their town was called or Ur or Uruk, and this is what was actually modern day Baghdad at this point in time. So they spanned all the way over to that, and they came all the way between those two seas, basically. This was functioning as Sumerian Empire. Also has the place around Babylon as well. They have lots of structures around there that establish that they definitely did exist there. We found just enormous amounts of writing tablets from them. There's a very small amount of people who actually translate this stuff, so we're very limited on what has been translated. But there's one story that seems to come up very often in the amount that we have translated, which is like 100,000 tablets or something. We have much more than that. These numbers might be off. I'm not a Sumerian like researcher entirely. But nevertheless, out of these tablets, on many, many occasions, I think it's over 500, we've found large chunks of what seems to be the same story, that story being the Epic of Gilgamesh. And the Epic of Gilgamesh goes into this entire concept. So by learning about this culture, we understand basically the first point where we are establishing what are kind of like the societal beliefs of religion, gods, pantheons, how they're working. Prior to Greece, functionally right alongside, you could say, Egypt, but if you're talking pharaonic Egypt, quite a bit before pharaonic Egypt. So like this is probably our first establishment of these kinds of symbol sets that go around what is functionally actually solar worship. All of these recognize functionally a sun god in the long run. Effectively, Anu was also a sun god. Recognize Anu is where we get the word on, and we do on to turn energy in onto something or turn on the lights. This is in effect a reference to Anu going way, way back all the way to Sumeria. So the point of all this is that this can be understood as an explanation functionally of ourselves that it sits at the base of what all of basically the modern symbol sets kind of grew themselves out of, because modern civilization built itself off the top of this base structure. There is ties back to other structures before them, but you'll find when the ties are there, they're oftentimes a twisted tie, in the sense that where it used to be a feminine thing or a matriarchal culture thing, over in this space it will be a masculine thing or a patriarchal thing, and function as story has taken like a 180-degree twist. No, most of the time in reality, if something goes one way, it will also go exactly the other way. So these things can be twisted either way. What we have at this point in time is a reemergence of that feminine energy coming in. Hopefully we're going to bring it to a balance. We don't want to go completely feminine. We don't want to go completely masculine. We want balance properly. So hopefully we get it to a balance point this time, but we very much so feel that energy creeping into our reality. You might have been noticing awakening symptoms, that your ascension process is sped up, weird dreams, more synchronicities than usual. You may have been feeling like there's more energy than usual, like you have to ground more, like you have too much energy inside of your head, like your heart's maybe feeling like kind of heavy, as it feels like there's like a denser reality coming down around you. Right now, we're really experiencing a big emergence of this, and functionally that energy coming in is causing a whole lot of these effects as it stabilizes into this reality. We do not know how long this is going to take, but as it's coming into reality, we're coming more in tune with what is that new format of reality, and it's probably a progressive flow as these things generally go. Nevertheless, we are experiencing that, and by understanding what we're experiencing, regardless of what story we do it through, we're able to align more with the process that basically the universe is bringing forth to us through some kind of story that we can understand and humanize or anthropomorphize, basically, to bring it closer to us. It's not a story of like, you know, waves that we can't see in the universe or light beaming from a star. It's an idea of like a man and a woman that are like in love and care about one another. You would be unbelievably surprised how many overlays there are in the Tiamat Abzu story and the classic Romeo and Juliet. They're basically the same story in a certain way, and nevertheless, this kind of idea of ourselves, the anthropomorphization of these concepts, or what was known to alchemists as functionally green language, where we take a functional concept and we express it in a metaphor that functionally doesn't present it perfectly, but causes the listener, the reader, or the perceiver to have to figure it out themselves. The process of them taking that story and figuring it out is what gets it to click with them and brings them more in coherence with that kind of energy. So that was a super soapbox right there. I literally did not even look at chat. That's like more than an intro to this situation. Happy to field your questions if you have any questions about this. And
Do it.
like, Aaron, do you have thoughts?
Yeah. I have tons, but why don't you? I'm taking notes and shit. I'm having all sorts of thoughts. We can talk about them later. There's lots of questions. So why don't you just start going through them?
Okay, they're mostly, so Anu is Saturn and Kronos. Saturn, no, not really. But also in yeah, there's crossovers. Realize that like Saturn and Kronos are systems that come from almost 4,000 years after Anu, and at that point, and Greek. Okay, so these are major gods inside of there, and Kronos would be on that. Saturn, kind of not, but Saturn could be understood in some stories as basically being like the idea of Abzu, right? Like a masculine fallen one. So there are crossovers, but realize as we get 100 years, 1,000 years, 2,000 years, 4,000 years away from these stories, we take certain things that meant one thing and they start getting portioned out to many different names. And inside of Hinduism, we have stuff like Shiva is the god of 1,001 names and actually has more than that. And all of those are different formats of something that's happening. If you really wanted to get a very direct overlay, you would need to go to a really old system like that. So you can go kind of the overlay of Tiamat, Abzu, Anu, and overlay that with Isis, Osiris, Horus. You could do maybe like, well, you could go like Vedic way, where you could go Shiva, Brahma, Vishnu, these kinds of things, because this is really functionally is talking about a slightly different dimensionality. Kronos is, while a slightly major god, as we get right now, like chronography, right? The chrono thing basically means time. With that, and then this S at the end of it, it's basically, he's the changing of time. He's the god of the changing of time, and his name insinuates that. While Anu does handle time, Anu is also a hell of a lot more than time. So to say that Anu was Kronos would be to diminish Anu's position, and technically by association massively increase Kronos' position, because Anu holds many, many more aspects than Kronos would have. Saturn is basically, a good way to understand this is, well, it's interesting because we have this, the overlay to the idea of Sat or Saturn, Satan, right? Set, and the idea of 666. All of this stuff kind of comes out of Saturn, Set, Satan, right? What is it? What's the Hebrew one? What do they call him? Something
Oh, so,
Shatan.
yeah. Hasatan.
Hasatan, right?
Hasatan.
So,
Yep.
so these kinds of things, very much so. Saturn, really kind of easiest to understand, and a little bit more like from an alchemical standpoint, where we say that this is like, this is hard structure, right? Saturn is a metal. It's Saturnine. It doesn't want to move. It's very rigid. So it's like rigid masculine. And for the most part, Saturnine energy is not really very good for us. Functionally, we're better as amorphous or malleable creatures. We really find more security and agility than we do in strength. And Saturn is really like our ability to have that strength, though. Not intrinsically bad, because we do want the ability to be able to be in some form. And so we have to be some percentage Saturnine for that. But we don't want to be so Saturnine that we can't then change form as soon as we need to. So we want to worship Saturn, but we can't make Saturn or Saturnalia the focus of everything that we're doing. And if we look at the word Saturnalia, then I'm going to get a definition on here for you. So Saturnalia, and this is where we get into a very weird thing, actually, because it is sort of, and it also isn't sort of with this. But this is because of where we're working with the language, and that's a whole thing on its own. So Saturnalia is actually, this idea comes from a Roman festival, and it was a Roman festival that was in December, and was basically a festival about like having fun, right? That's pretty much what it was about. So now we find inside of our life, if we engage in too much Saturnalia, just like just having fun, right? We're not applying basically any practicality or logical function to what we're doing. We end up in a space that is obviously oftentimes navigating very randomly, oftentimes making bad decisions for the long format of our life. We do want to be able to do that because we want to engage our merrymaking, but realize
Yeah.
in terms of the Roman festival, the way that they would do it was pretty much with Roman culture. You were a fucking cog in the machine the entire rest of the year, and then during Saturnalia, you could go have fun now. Right? For the standard people that were of the society, they didn't get to have fun all the time. They worked farms, they took care of factories, shit like this. They worked their job, they lived their life. They were a part of the Roman Empire, the Roman war machine, basically, and they were working for the glory of Rome. As a reward for that, when the time of Saturn came around, something that they were trying to already generate basically reverence for, they presented Saturn in this case as like, here's the time when all the rules break. But that's because Saturn is the rules. So when Saturn comes, Saturn can say, all right, you can break the rules, right? Because Saturn allows that, basically. So yes, no, sort of. Anu can kind of be understood as that, but really we're trying to make a crossover from one symbol set that's like way back here in linear time to one that's actually like way up here. And we're actually two different ones, like we're Greek and Roman at the same time. So but these are much in the future from that. And we've kind of distributed the gods from there. As for instance, with Kronos, technically Anu would also be Zeus, right? So like, and that's why we get the crossover that like Kronos is Zeus. They're very similar, all these things, because they're actually pulling from the Sumerian stuff. Realize like Greece was sitting right next to Sumeria. Like, Greece located here, and then
Right.
Sumeria coming off basically the side of it like this almost. So they very much so got this storyline very early, undoubtedly, if not just through oral tradition, through actually understanding the writings and having more of them.
On a quick anecdotal little rabbit trail or whatever, it adds its nuance to what you were saying there. I feel like so the Saturn explaining the Saturnalia and Saturn coming in and breaking the rules, or that whole dynamic, or it can allow for that. Can you explain in a general sense, I guess, what people's Saturn return typically entails in their life, and when that happens exactly? I've heard it's a big thing. I've never really looked into it enough to quite understand.
Okay, so Saturn return is generally because it's like Saturn is this rigidity and boundaries. Saturn returns oftentimes lead to some type of big boundary dissolution. So they oftentimes do herald like a big change in the life, not in the sense that like something's forced to change, but rather that your perspective on a certain kind of thing changes. Like maybe you've been a monogamous individual all your life, and all of a sudden you're like, you know what, like this isn't for me. I don't understand the idea of just loving one person. Now it makes more sense to share that with everyone. This would be like a common thing for someone to have happen, like a big value system change like that being basically dissolved and letting
Yeah,
a whole new perception in is oftentimes a Saturn
interesting.
return. Realize you're boundary dissolving all the time, and you can pretty much just watch the transit of Saturn to watch which boundary is easiest to dissolve right now, and then functionally work with the universe to just dissolve
Yeah,
that boundary because
beautiful.
the energy is already right for it, right? So you just do
It's
the
already
same thing,
coherent. You
right?
just jump in the river and swim.
Mhm.
Or jump into the chorus and sing.
How does the world serpent tie into the Tiamat story? Functionally, the world serpent, in a certain way, you can kind of understand Anu and Anu's effect on being basically the middle point, or wherein the boundaries of the thing are decided by. If you're talking like whole sum of its parts, you understand the idea of the circumpuncus, a circle with a dot in the middle of it. Anu's that, and then the Tiamat and Abzu idea is basically a gauge symmetry depending on which way you're looking at it. So the object is actually determined by Anu, right? And Anu being like his movement of effect. So like the rotation of this, we could call that like a year, but that process of change or the effect that Anu has could be understood as basically this cosmic serpent or the world serpent that's constantly bringing forth the gradual change of everything just simply through time passing. But that's really just like, you could say that the world serpent in a certain way is like an agent directly of Anu that does Anu's bidding to simply just like keep going that way. You know what I mean? And it just keeps time moving. in my own personal opinion, there would actually be two world serpents. One, it's a snake going both directions at the same time. So it's doing the flow to the past and the flow to the future simultaneously. And as a byproduct of them coiling past each other at the perfectly same speed, we have a snapshot that we call the present. Basically, this is the influence of Anu pretty much going. Well, you could understand him as basically going like all of this, right? And then two snakes head off in opposite directions,
Oh,
and now they always pass at the same time in perfect coherence. You know what I mean? And as
right,
a
right, right.
byproduct of that, the seeming flow of the past and the future are stabilized in this seeming present that kind of doesn't exist, right? Like the future never gets
Okay.
here. There's only the present. But as soon as you recognize the present, it's technically the past, right? So
Yeah.
this process is happening because kind of none of them are happening, right? Like a flow this way and a flow that way is happening, and their cancellation of force creates a position, a 0 point unity, where we recognize an existence. It creates a space for something to exist outside of the rules, basically, and that outside of the rules is what we call the present moment, right? Like it exists and doesn't exist simultaneously.
Yeah.
So pretty much that. The cosmic serpent is what keeps the world turning or keeps the galaxy spinning or keeps time going. It's eternal change. And so any type of god that's always engaged in that, you could say that basically Tiamat and Abzu, like Tiamat's one that goes this way, and Abzu's one that goes this way, and Anu sits in the middle being like, my snakes, you know what I mean? Pretty much. And so there is
Mm,
two of them still going, but it's in the balance of those two things that we functionally get the
wow.
existence of things.
That's like
You could look at
that.
this entire metaphor as being a metaphor for phase conjugate optics. And that's like this gives you science of exactly how, like, literally this happens. We have studied it.
Yeah. Oh, you
What were you
stopped.
going to say, Aaron?
Oh, very good,
I
very,
thought you were
very.
saying something.
I was, but then you started to say, then you turned me on, so I was letting it go. Phase conjugate optics, and I'm like, whoa, all right, yeah, do that. um, yeah, what I
These
remember right
aren't
now.
the images I'm looking for. So,
These are not the
yeah,
images
if
for.
there's any more questions, super happy to answer those. Um, Understanding kind of the story of Tiamat, like we could do, I guess we could do like some reading from the Epic of Gilgamesh if we wanted to, so that we could get like, you know, and just kind of analyze a little bit of this, of where it's talking about what Tiamat's doing, why it's being done, etc. It's kind of crazy in a certain way. The overlay of the story of the Epic of Gilgamesh, what kind of happens to the whole situation, and how that overlays to the concept of Shakespeare's play Hamlet is a very interesting situation, and also kind of holds the position that we're currently in the world in a certain way. If you don't know Hamlet, basically Hamlet is a kid who's basically supposed to own the kingdom, but his father has died, or his mother, I don't remember which one it was. One's dead, one committed suicide because of the other one, and Hamlet's left basically in his kingdom, but his kingdom is ruled by his father's brother, his uncle, and his uncle's basically a belligerent drunkard. And in a certain way, that's kind of what we have in society right now. Our real, actual good dad, which would be represented functionally by Jupiter, with that's not really the functional thing. Instead, we got like Saturnine dad, right? And it's kind of like the idea of basically like a drunk uncle is in place, and mom's not really here to temper any of it because she's dead, a la the Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
Mm,
That's supposed to be mother, but she's a ghost now because we killed her. That's Hamlet's mom,
mm,
who's dead inside of the crypt, right? And so it
wow,
never, and Hamlet's soliloquy is speaking to a ghost, a Holy Spirit. So there's a ton of overlays with that, but it's
wow,
functionally the culture that we're
beautiful.
living in at this point in time. Why do you think people blended Anu with Enlil? This is a ridiculous thing to do because Enlil and Enki are actually sons of Anu, and they are representative of the Cain and Abel, Castor, Pollux, the two male twins stories. So there should be no
Mm,
blend with Anu and Enlil. Anybody that has done that basically misunderstood the literature. It's clearly a completely separate thing. But technically, everything is Anu. Anu is the first god, right? He's the point at the center of it. And then basically, you would have Tiamat and Abzu after that. And then things came forward besides this. The only god that would stand behind this would be space itself, right? Because Anu couldn't exist without a space to exist in. This is functionally the overlooked thing, the void, right? The space that comes before anything. 0 always precedes 1, even if you don't say it, because that's where you started. You know what I mean? So this idea is that like Anu's the first god, but there would be a 0 with God that is the space. Anu's the first thing. Anu puts forth 2 things, and now there are 3 things. These 3 things interfacing creates a 4th thing functionally, and this is how we get this expression of the numbers generating themselves, and the 3 is coming from the 2, and the 4 is coming from the 3, and the 5 is coming from the 4, and it always emerges itself like this. This is studied by John Dee and the hieroglyphic monad and a whole bunch of other people. It's functionally the entire study in certain ways of like the Royal Arch Freemasons. There's a lot of people that get into this idea of that expression. Inside of the Royal Arch Freemasons, they study it through the idea of the threefold, fourfold tomb, and a whole lot of their rituals and symbolism is related directly around the idea of this interface of the numbers 3 and 4, which the best way to understand it is functionally the creation of a tetrahedron. If you draw a triangle, and then now there is vertices that would create a point in the center place, but that would be pulled up to another dimension. If I get the 3 things in the right place, I can pull them up to a single point of objectivity, which lies in another dimension. Now I have a new 1, and I can create a new dimensionality because of that. So the idea of the threefold, fourfold tomb is that I have 3 on the ground, 1 in the sky. That one's functionally invisible, but that creates the tetrahedron that I need for creation, the fire or the space that is the beginning of creation. And inside of that, you can do a lot of things. That threefold, fourfold thing is used not only to collect our own energy, to create a vessel for powering our own energy, but also for the summoning, recollection, and trapping of spirits and demons. So there's all kinds of things that can be done with that. The Enochian standard banishing ritual uses the concept of a threefold, fourfold tomb. When it ends the ritual, it ends it, and many actual various different rituals do this. They end it saying, so mote it be, and then you clap, so mote it, or you step, and then so mote it be, and you step again loudly, so it is, and then you step again loudly, and immediately after it you clap. And the idea of this is that basically you've made the sound, summoned the spirit, clap it to trap it. That's the whole idea, with the idea of a banishing ritual. Even if it doesn't get cast out, it would still be trapped in there. That's why it always says in the beginning of it, you may either go in peace or stay in peace. So mote it be, so it is, clap. The thing, even if it gets trapped, is now working for you because it can only stay in peace or go away without having any revenge base because of this. And this is kind of the entire purpose of the Enochian banishment ritual, is that it banishes all dimensionalities from the space, and anything that it doesn't banish from that space, it collects to serve the user. So, pretty good one.
Yeah, no doubt. Is there a link to that, or is that your own thing?
I mean, there's links out there. I wrote one, shared it in our WhatsApp some days ago, and I can find.
That'd be cool to have a copy of somewhere.
The thing that I wrote out is actually like more than just the banishment ritual, because it actually, I think it's worthwhile to do some other stuff before that, like aura centering and setting Enochian watchtowers. If you're gonna, the banishment ritual is something that you do basically for ritual hygiene. You want to do it after every single thing that you ever do that is ritual, to ensure that there's no lingering things that caught wind of what you were doing. And you also want to do it whenever you are feeling that there is some kind of energy inside of your space. It's basically an illogical way of getting outside energies out of your space. For empaths that feel too much energy from other people, it's actually a really good way to basically just get rid of that if you believe in the process, because it's really just casting out all energy from the space. So
cool.
But if you ask Jen, you need to be careful, because she had a cat that was her grandma, and when I banished the house, her grandma was no longer the cat, and she had to deal with that detachment. So that's a thing that can happen. Be careful about that. If your grandma, your grandpa, or your whatever ancestor is moving around pennies on the mantle to communicate with you, and it makes you feel good about your life, maybe ease off on the Enochian banishment rituals around that area, because they will be gone.
Do you think they're always not supposed to be there?
You kick them out.
Right.
Supposed to be there is a determination of your own perception. Anything that you're perceiving, technically, there's a reason why it's supposed to be there. The question is still,
Yeah.
do you actually want it to be there? You have the
Right.
choice to just banish the things. It doesn't mean that they won't come back, but you can just banish them again. I mean, the whole concept of basically avoiding our problems is just like a shitty format of banishing ritual. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, my boss is going to be pissed off at me, so I like snake around the office and try and hide away from it. I'm basically trying to banish my boss from my space by making my space always somewhere else than my boss. It's just a shitty format of banishing ritual, and it doesn't work because eventually you're sitting inside of your office and your boss walks in and is like, yo, we need to talk. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
yeah, and you're having to change your space instead of them changing theirs.
yeah, and that's not that's why I do them in the order that I do, is because I center and click into my own aura. So I set one space, then I set the space around me, and then I take everything in that space and I get rid of it. You know what I mean? So I do it in a specific order for my own personal banishing, but really, like, a lot of people just use the banishment ritual itself, because since it's kicking everything out, it's like the final step of ritual hygiene in terms of Enochian measures. Any Enochian practice, the last thing that you do is the banishment ritual. So functionally, you actually do the aura centering, and then you basically do the ritual of the pentagram, where you basically you secure your space, right? And then you do your stuff inside of it, and then you do a banishing ritual. So if you're going to do magic or Enochian rituals, they would come on effectively like aura centering, set your pentagrams, do whatever ritual you want to do, banish the space. So
cool. Fucking love that shit, man. It's great. Glad we got that recorded.
yeah, it's good stuff. This is all the work, basically, John D., Edward Kelly. If you take the time to look into their stuff, or more recently, there was a guy named Vincent Bridges that went real deep on their stuff. A lot of good videos from him. Rest in peace to him. He's off in another dimension playing with an eschaton, undoubtedly, because he was a wizard. But nevertheless, he's got so much good stuff written about it and so much good research into it. And a lot of the stuff that was actually working with, we have scientific understandings of it and stuff now. A lot of the reason because of Vincent Bridges' close work with people like Dan Winter and the rest of the people at Therify.net, flameandmind.com, stuff like this. They've brought a lot of correlations between alchemy, phase conjugate optics, plasma physics, Enochian rituals, this kind of stuff. They really have done a great job to bring that together. There's actually a Facebook group. What is it called? If you search for Enochian and Ophanim on there, you'll actually find a Facebook group. I think it's probably the only one that even talks about both of those things in the same place. But nevertheless, you'll find a Facebook group that's basically ran by them, where they still do a lot of these like angelic correlations. Got a lot of good people in their community still that are very much so engaging with these things. And so we are definitely still learning from these Enochian entities that were basically being played with the black mirrors of John D., Edward Kelly, and whoever their third was, because, well, if you know anything about this, certainly wasn't two guys. It definitely wasn't two guys. It was definitely three guys. You know, it's not two guys. So,
yeah. Jacob said, I like that tool.
It's a good tool.
Enochian
really
ritual.
Yeah. Enochian stuff is all real good, but realize, you know, like when you're doing Enochian stuff, Jacob, this really isn't actually towards you. I think you're completely fine, but realize you're messing with really high dimensional stuff. Like it's way up there. It's not just like, it's not small time. You know what I mean? Like maybe do some other stuff if you don't know what you're doing already, because it's serious. You know, like the guys who have really gotten into this stuff, they've spent their whole life studying stuff like this before they really got into the work of what Enochian ritualism is really about, which includes a lot of Goetia. And Goetia, as known in modern times, well, it's really actually spirit summoning, but in modern times we think of it more as demon summoning, because more often than not it's done by an unskilled person and it don't go so hot.
Yeah, those are fun to watch.
They're out there.
Come in, try to clear out demons and shit. It's like, oh man, sucks for you. Or it's like, took 8 hours. I'm like, well, why? How come it only took me 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Like, you got
because they're doing it wrong. Because they are doing it wrong. So, you know, that's how it is, though. Again, like if that's what it takes them to get into the focus state to be able to do the thing, and they're willing to take that time to help somebody else out or help their own space, more
Oh,
power to them.
100%. 100%.
But there are
Yeah.
better ways, and
Yeah, but you know what happens to them though? They burn out, just like other people. You can't. I mean, you got to find more
no
efficient
doubt.
ways. You got to grow. You got to evolve. You got to figure shit out, man. But absolutely, honor the time, the sacrifice. They're willing to give up their life to help somebody.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
But
for
yeah,
sure.
it's very appreciative of them. Like, never doubt the position that you're at. Use the tools that you feel that you need to use, and the ones that you're passionate
100%.
about, and the ones that, like, when you use them, you feel fucking awesome using them. Like, it
Yeah,
makes you feel cool,
totally.
and you're like even going like, man, this is so great. Like, I hope people don't hear me
Yeah.
doing this
Oh fuck
shit or
yeah.
whatever. You know what I mean? Like, use that stuff. That
Yeah.
feeling that you got inside of you, that's your power. You know, like that
Yeah.
is it. So just tap into that. Don't It doesn't matter what anybody else says. Just tap into that
Like,
thing.
look,
Like,
the deepest engine for your creation belief and manifestation of your reality is your feelings or your emotions, your visceral internal disposition, the things people don't see, right? How do you feel
hmm
genuinely? Nobody's asking. Do it. Find a way to feel it, right? If you haven't felt that frequency before, find it. Put it in the
yeah,
vortex. I want to understand what this feels like. And someone will come along, or a situation will come along, or something will, and you will feel what you need to feel. But like when you can empower a ritual, anything you're doing with, you can call it joy, but feeling, whatever. That's why anger and stuff works also. But to me, like the
hmm
permanent 0 point energy source is the coherence inside of us to be totally coherent so that you can be present in every moment and have joy. And I feel like joy is a much
absolutely.
more, at the very least, a cleaner power source. Put it that way. Jesus, way cleaner. And
Yeah,
there's more from it. I mean, you actually get a return from it. Whereas anger and all those things is a depletion. There's always binding contracts, right? I mean, with joy and things, there's massive energetic return just because you're doing things for other people, really out of an overflow of yourself,
yeah,
and it's planting seed everywhere you go.
yeah. I mean, the anger side of it. There's not necessarily anything wrong with. We'll call it the dark side. You know,
Right?
it's unified. It's always doing the same thing. The two sides go like this and hit into each other.
Yeah,
They unify right in the middle with their
yeah,
swords in each other. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
maybe not the way that you want your life to go. You probably want to like get along with the people in your life and so on and so forth.
The Gray
So
Jedi Code
yeah, I mean,
from
great ones,
from
and that's really the
from
thing, is
10 days
recognizing
ago.
that. And this is like, we were get along with everyone,
One thing.
light side, fight everyone, dark side. Gray side is recognizing that, like, okay, so I want to get along with everyone, but I don't get along with everyone, and sometimes I need to
Yeah.
like manage a boundary, but I also need to be able to
Oh,
let people through the
I just
boundary.
hold on.
And
I just thought of a great okay, nuance differential. Being a peacekeeper versus a peacemaker. Peacekeeper, oh, you do whatever you can to keep the peace so that people step all over you, stretch your own, whatever, you do all the stupid shit people do, try to string it together, or you're a peacemaker. Like, look, motherfucker, here's the problem, and this, boom, let's fucking find a solution. Or really gently, totally the opposite, diplomatically, whatever. But the point is, you're a peacemaker. You make
sure,
peace. Where you go, there's peace that happens around you or it falls away from you. Sacred
yeah,
neutral, gray Jedi, whatever, man.
yeah, and I like the word coherence for this. You
Yeah,
bring everything
way
together.
better,
That's what
way
I
better.
like for it.
Yeah,
Peace is a weird little etymological one or
yeah,
word
yeah.
trick that I feel like
No,
we do.
I
You
don't
know,
like peace at all.
yeah, it's
Dude, when you said coherence, like, but when we were first talking or whatever, I'm like, oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah, oh yeah, that's way better,
yeah.
way
If
better.
anybody's watching and they wonder what I mean by that, like peace is
Please
like
do.
pieces, and peace means to like have everybody working together in harmony and coherence. So that means like not being in pieces. That's a divided concept, separation concept. Like we really want to bring everything to coherence, bring everyone together, unity, something like that. Even unity is an interesting one because it's like one, and really we're looking for like zero, right? Like a space that has everybody, not like, oh, we're one thing, new world order or something like that. It's not really like that. So
Mm,
all of
good
these are,
differentiation.
all of them are a little weird. English is not the best language to talk about spirituality.
No,
That
that's one of
that
the
can
worst,
be a
man. But that's why we're so amazing, and we can do a podcast this long every night because we can craft English well enough. I mean, well enough, man, to actually have deep level conversations. That's pretty cool.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
English.
very
It's one of
thank
the things.
gosh for words.
It's one of the. Oh, poetry is my first love. Uh-oh. Look, you see, it's you attracting the girls to that poetry. That's what's happening.
Is that how it goes? It's
That must be
possible.
what it was, Zach. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
You got
myself
him
in
going,
another
don't you? I mean,
lifetime was quite the woman swayer, the honey-tongued bard, as they called him back then.
yeah. How did
But
you dress back then?
I mean, in probably typical late Elizabethan era wear.
What was the name of that person that you were?
It,
Where did
his
they
name was
live?
Edward de Vere. Edward de Vere. He lived in Oxford. He's the 17th Earl of Oxford.
Continue. You open the door. Just fucking go with it, man.
Nah. Nah, another time. Another time. We're
All right.
talking about Tiamat and stuff tonight. Although, very much so, this man was right along the same lines. You know what I mean? Like, realized this guy was a total romantic. He was writing these kinds of things. He was very much so like Queen Elizabeth I was a little bit different than Queen Elizabeth II, if you aren't familiar with the history of the two individuals. And very much so, there was an order of people that were very much so they were more focused on love and romance and, well, unity and stuff. And then there was other people who were not. And this
Oh,
individual
wait,
was
hold
one of
on.
them.
Wait, hold on. Was this the 1760s? Like the 1960s?
This would actually be more
Pre-love?
like the 1660s.
Okay, 60s, but still 60s. That's interesting. Correlation.
Yeah.
300 years apart in the 60s, 3-6, and 69. I wonder, I don't know. There's she shit. The hippie thing, free love, plur, back in the fucking late Elizabethan
Or
era.
1560, rather, is where it
Okay,
would be. So we're even farther
four,
back.
400 years, portal. But still, like, that's interesting,
Hmm.
I think.
Yeah. You
Anyway,
wanted
continue.
to know what he wore. This might be a real portrait of the man, perhaps. Tough to say. Probably is.
Zoom in on his face, and then you match his profile.
Oh geez, genetics looking like each other. That's
No,
no
come on,
fun.
come on, come on,
How
come on.
boring.
Let's see the
No,
energetic
I mean
overlay.
I mean recreating yourself. What is happening here? Don't do that.
I don't know.
Look how big this photo is. Like, what is really happening here? Well,
I
wait, we
don't
gotta
know.
share it. It
What?
crashed. It crashed. Gotta share it. There we go. I don't know what direction it is. What do I gotta
Ah,
do?
there we
I
go.
gotta
So,
do like this.
that way, that way. Yeah, yeah. The more to your left. Yeah, that's good. I mean, probably no little hair to the right. Okay, that's good. I'm gonna pop me out real quick, make you bigger.
Okay. It's not gonna make me. Oh, there you go.
Dude, I totally see it. It's legit.
It's legit. It's
It's
proven
legit.
right there. We just looked at this painting from
Yeah,
like
legit.
1600 or something, and
I
it's
just totally
confirmed.
made a meme. I just totally made a meme for you. I didn't even think about it until right now. Like, oh shit, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Screenshot.
So you'd
Perfect.
see the perfect resemblance, but I have a beard right now. So
Well, you just trim that to a nice little like hairline mustache.
no,
That's what we'll do when we're there. Yeah, we'll trim you down to a hairline mustache so you can
absolutely
really
not.
match the portrait. Do you want to
Not
embody his
happening.
spirit? Do you want to embody that spirit or not? You need to match. You need to get one of those neck collars too. No,
If
hey
you want
Jen,
to
let's get him one
embody
of those
his
hats.
spirit, you write poetry. That's how you do it. It's not
Jen,
about beards.
no, Jen, let's get him one of those hats. Make him
I'll
wear
take
it.
the hat. I'll wear the hat.
And the neck thing, and the neck thing. You gotta do the neck thing, but
I'll wear
it's
the
just the
hat and the
blue.
neck thing. I'm down with
All
that.
right,
I'll wear the
cool.
whole
Fuck
suit.
yeah,
It would
do
be
it, man.
very
Fuck
fun
yeah.
to wear this suit and walk around in public on like 2 grams of mushrooms.
Totally. Fuck. Let's do that when I'm down there. Let's do that next week. Yeah, we just find one. I could like grant one or something. My grandma wouldn't have time to make one, or she totally would. She totally
Jasmine
would.
says, I love all the topics going on tonight. I'm cleaning my kitchen, making watermelon rind jelly, and just went to battle with the spider. The spider won, by the way, all while trying to listen to you guys. Spiders always win, Jasmine, even when they lose.
And it's always beneficial to take a spider outside when you can, even if they're scary. With a napkin
Just
and a
accept it
cap.
into your life. It's
Yeah,
not.
or let it
It's
go.
not. It's not hurting. It's not going to hurt you. It's just reminding you to mindfully weave your dreams into reality.
Hmm.
Unless of course
Interesting.
it's a black widow, then maybe run.
Do you know?
But
You know what's interesting? So it made me think of when you said that, it made me like go through a shitload of times I've seen spiders and haven't quite understood what it meant, but it meant something, right? And like
hmm
intense moments. And so this really intense conflict with my ex-wife was a really intense engagement, and she was coming down. She was at the top or on the stairs, and I was downstairs. And then we both noticed at one point this giant, like one of those wolf spiders or whatever you get around here in Washington, when their legs are sprawled out, they're like 3 inches across or something. And it was on the wall. Just
that's pretty
there it
big.
was. Yeah. It's like, holy shit.
When I was in
You know, you
Peru
just,
when we were
yeah. Sorry, go
yeah, Jasmine said she took it outside and it jumped her basically. So
ahead.
you
Leave your
you just
dreams.
got
Leave your dreams.
you just
Leave your
got jumped
dreams.
into the spider gang. You remember now?
That's it.
So
You gotta leave
when
dreams now. It's over.
when I was in the Amazon inside of like what was the hut that basically where there was the kitchen, right? We got out of
Yeah.
ceremony and like it was like a super intense ceremony for me, and then like finally I was feeling all right and I was kind of like heading back to my hut, but I decided that like I ended up seeing another guy was around there and we decided like talk for a second, and so we went like to the kitchen hut, and I like down by the chair was like the biggest spider I've ever seen in my life, right? Like so it's like good size, like this
Yeah.
big, right?
Yeah.
And so we're all
Fantastic.
like, whoa, holy shit, like let's move away from that thing a little bit. And then we start talking again, and we look back over there, and this spider is like facing off with another spider that's like 3 times its size. It was like it
Whoa.
was so much
No
bigger. And it
shit.
was crazy because I
Yeah.
had just seen the biggest spider in my life, and this thing made this thing look tiny. And I was just like, I'm out of here, dude. Like I'm out. This night was already too rough. I gotta go.
Dude, no shit, man. You know what I want to hear about? We'll put a pin in it because if we're gonna play this video, take a break here. But I do want to hear more about when Jen was talking about when you whistled and took all the mosquitoes on you,
Mm, okay.
dude. Yeah, because
Yep.
I feel I want to hear you articulate it because I think I know exactly what was going on inside of you, and like a thousand, oh maybe like a million different ways, and I just want to hear you express it because like that's gonna be awesome. Please.
All right. Well, we're going to listen to Nomad by the Mind Orchestra and take a quick little 7-minute break. Please, YouTube, no copyright infringement. We have their thing with all their stuff on the screen. We support them very much. This whole show is for educational purposes. We're not monetizing anything. All right. Let's go.
Okay, hold on. Want to see something real quick? Watch
No.
this. Yeah, real
Okay.
quick. Watch so this
What
neck thing.
happened? Uh-huh.
This neck thing, right?
Okay. You are a deer now. Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
Anyway, that's all. That's what I'm trying. It's like I have to wear it for a filter thing around here for certain job counts we go into. That's
Mm-hmm.
what that was. It's uncomfortable, and I'm done with it now. And I wanted to make a display of it. I'm done.
All right. Well, it's been very displayed. And now we're going to hear about the Mind Orchestra and their wonderful song, Nomad.
Keep hearing voices everywhere we go, and telling us to move on to fresher snows. We brought some new friends that we met just the other day, and now we're staying here on the mountain across the way. nomads out of nowhere. We've got to move on. There's another place with a faraway taste waiting for us down this road. Waiting for us down this road. Keep hearing music calling us on to fields of green and pastures of sun. Found some new friends that we met while we were there, and now we laugh around the fire that we share. Some people say that it's a problem to not have just one place to call your home. And I worry to be called nomads, 'cause every place that we stay, we can call home. Every place that we choose to stay, we can call home. Keep seeing scenes from the play of time. Brief moments caught in the valley of my mind. We met some actors, floated by the day, who happened to be nomads too, going our way. We've been nomads traveling through this foreign land, and it's alright, she said. Don't you know there's still more places we can go? Still more places we can call home.
All right, that was Mind Orchestra with the track Nomad. You can find them at themindorchestra.com. We're going to have a little bit more music on here from, as you can see on the screen, Reinhard Burr and his album Berlin Movement 3. And we're getting Jen set up so that she can come back on here for a little bit. And so just a little bit longer, and then we'll be all set up, and we will be back. Enjoy the music.
This is not goodbye. With angels now you fly. Your song remains within until we meet again. You sing when gardens bloom. You sing when sorrow looms. You sing our pain away. We sing your song today.
All right, and we are back. I do not know why the songs aren't very clear. Could be an upload rate on this end, could be a download rate on your end, could be some weird compression issue. I am not sure. We
It
will
was
see.
clear on my. It was clear on my end, so I don't know. I mean, the audio. I mean, it was the words weren't always articulate, but that's the way style of the song. You know,
Yeah,
like if
I'm
that's
not
the
sure.
clarity thing. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm
I
not
do
sure.
not know.
Could be a lot of
But
different things in a lot of different places.
where's Jen? Where's Jen?
Jen is getting ready. She is almost ready. We're going to have the
All
wonderful
right.
Gently Healing on here again. Jennifer Tilley, healer extraordinaire,
All right.
chat engager extraordinaire. We're very lucky to have
But
her as part of the tribe. She's a very helpful individual and multi-talented. So many different disciplines and so many wonderful skills and such a
I was
wonderful smile, as you see.
there. She is. Hi, Jen.
Hi. Hi. How are you, Aaron?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Good. Doing good.
Good.
Again, this is like unexpected. 2 nights in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
Happy to see
getting
all you guys.
your star roll going.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, do you want to talk to your fans? You want to do any shout outs?
Oh, shout out to
Your
every
fans.
single person that's in there. Like, seriously, I love you guys very much. And I'm just super grateful that you're here and that you're watching and learning how to love yourself, and we all unite, and gosh, it's pretty rad. So I love you guys.
Gosh,
Thank
it's
you.
pretty rad, says Jen Tilly. I love you guys. Gosh, it's pretty rad. I agree. 100%. Love those words.
Great to see you too, Willow. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exciting.
Nice to be seen, isn't
Oh,
it, Jen?
yeah. Yeah. It definitely felt very different today after doing this. I think it's very interesting when you go on and you talk and you just like speak to your heart and just share it. And then it was just the way it was received is very heartwarming. And also to have that journey of just self reflection is very heartwarming. And to kind of just see it all kind of pieced together. And, there's like all these other stories that came to my mind today where I was just like,
Oh, do
there's
tell.
just so no, it's like there's just so many things.
Oh,
And it's just
yeah.
been such a journey, and it's really rad to be here and to be able to share it and to be able to have a voice to share it. I'm really, really grateful. Really grateful. Yeah.
Jen Jasmine says Jen is like rainbows and bubbles all at once.
Oh my gosh. No one has ever given me a compliment like that before, Jasmine. Thank you.
That's a great compliment. Look, yeah, I love stringing words together like that. That's fucking great,
Yeah.
man. Well done.
Yeah.
And like yours,
I like
the one
that.
before.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, that's awesome. Jasmine,
Okay.
you're awesome. Yeah. So
So, is there something you specifically had in mind? Because I have a thought question to throw out, Zach
yeah, go
or
ahead.
Jen.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on the whole? I mean, adding your feminine perspective and your life history perspective and your experiences. What are your additional layers to the whole Tiamat story and that whole dynamic?
Oh wow.
As you understand it, not needing that you don't have to put it in the historical context in the same linear way. Like as you understand the energies, as you understand the concepts, even.
Yeah. It's like funny because my brain like downloads kind of like just kind of the Tiamat and Marduk and the masculine, feminine, and I think with Tiamat and also Marduk because like I don't know, my name, like, I think our names are blessings and curses, and there's like similarities with my names there.
Mm.
To speak to like the symbolism of Tiamat or that, it's not as free flowing for me. Other than
Okay.
like when I see like these gods, entities, however that they're an energetic resonance, and so like it's like a symbol set, if you will. deep, profound thoughts that I feel like I could like boom after all the things that you guys shared is kind of like I don't know what to add, like I know that
You're
it's like
tuning.
this.
Here's what you add. Here's what you add when you feel like someone said everything you could possibly say, which I
Yeah,
get because I do it. That means I do that thing with each other at different times. And I'm like, awesome, or
yeah.
whatever. Like, cool.
It's
Like
awesome.
I didn't have to expend any energy to explain that. But since we have you on the show and we're triangulating this conversation with you, an actual feminine presence in between two men on the show, even figuratively, but also literally a little bit at the cameras.
Yeah.
Not anymore. It switched.
Ah. And then
No,
Yeah.
I found a picture of Jen actually that I wanted to share. There's actually
Yeah.
two of them. There was this one, and then there's also this other one that's really in line with what we're talking about tonight. Oh yeah.
Whoa. Dude,
Goodness.
I'm gonna send you. I have a living gift thing I made of that picture specifically. One of those living pixel art images.
Cool. So
Yeah.
Jen, maybe asking the question in a different way. How have
Yeah.
you experienced the emergence of the feminine energy on the planet over the recent time in your life?
Way better question. That one.
Oh, my experience of the feminine energy really has been a huge journey because I'm a double Cancer. I'm a very, very emotional woman. But I would say, like, not very, very, like, I feel like I'm much more balanced now than I was, like, before. And it's been this journey of, like, navigating the feminine. And um, because we're all connected, I think that we've had to take time to, like, look at ourselves differently now. And the biggest things that I could express that I would want to, like, if I was Tiamat and I was bringing forth the feminine energy, I would talk about these things that are like triggers to dig within yourself. Like, I think oftentimes the feminine energy can have like jealousy in it and manipulations and different things that have been very powerful and prevalent in ways that we've had to find ways to act before. And now we're kind of starting that process of that balancing of that feminine and masculine side, the logic and the emotional. And those that haven't gotten there yet, like, that would be my biggest thing to express. Like, if you're a woman, like, look at that balance of the logical side of your mind. Like, it is so absolutely crucial to be able to operate in this world. I mean, for me, when I just think about it, like, and I don't know so much if this is all like feminine energy, but I speak to it because, like, being a female, living a life as a caretaker for so long to not doing that, I found that, like, when and active behaviors like being a caretaker, um, I made lots of assumptions. I couldn't, like, really hear what people were saying because I always had some kind of agenda, because I was in such need of that, what I called that self-esteem fundraiser. So however I was acting had this agenda that had to have this result no matter what. And so checking out those triggers and those things that are coming your way, like when those emotions flare, there's this difference between the emotion and the feeling, which we've discussed on this show before. And really, I feel like now we, like, have this abundance of, like, information coming in these awesome symbol sets like Tiamat or Shiva and Vishnu. Like, they all are pretty much the same story. So when you say, what do you think of this one specifically? Well, this is the feminine one of this, if Tara, and so, like, I can speak to those aspects. And I think, sorry, there's a store shutting. I'm gonna shut this one down. We have this gate and the workers come in and out, so I want to not have that as noise in the background. It's about healing right now. It really is. It's about self-love and self-discovery. I think the biggest thing, like sharing my love story with you guys and talking about like having this man that I love so much, having him express his love and not being able to experience that to the fullest because I didn't have that self-love. There's no way that you can experience love unless you know it within, and you have to love you first. And it's been just a fascinating journey because seriously, like the people that are closest to you, it's the ones you're most comfortable with and putting those guards down. And it's unfortunate because the ones you love the most are the ones that you end up hurting. If it's like, if you're not managing, let's say, your things that you are a victim of, um, you will end up being in duality, period. So you'll end up being that victimizer. And it's either going to be to yourself or to the other. But the reality is it's always going to end up trickling out to your external reality because you can't see it and you can't your reality is that prism. Like I've talked about, that you put these emotional lenses on and you can't see what is right in front of you. You can't experience it until you learn how to experience it with just you. And understanding, like, I've had a lot of what a lot of people would say, some big hardships in my life, and stuff that I could, quote unquote, identify with being a victim. But once I recognized the detriment of that when I really truly, like, we all want to be loved, but it's no one else's job but yours. And it's no, like, if anyone could have done it for me, it would have been Zach, man. It really would have. Like, if like, I shrunk my life so small and cut out everyone, and like, where the universe took everyone, so that my world got so small, so that I could see that no matter what, wherever you go, there you are. That's true. And that's how you meet yourself now. And generally, like, the way we've been raised with television, all of the infrastructures that have been put in place have not been built on that. We were taught those things. This is like bringing in, like, how do you even talk to yourself lovingly? How do you even look at yourself these ways? Like, where do you even go find that information? It's just like, it's not like so easy to find, but luckily, like I'm saying, we have these like symbols like Tiamat and Marduk and Mars and Venus and Tara, and like they're there, the Mary and Jesus, like all of that is the same story, and that story is you. You're both the masculine and the feminine, and when you start to use that logical mind and you stop enacting the sick behavior that has been coded into our DNA, just stop it, and allow yourself to let it go. I've had like a lot of like deep meditations where, and I'm at an interesting point with it of going back to your past, like what is like the ultimate with it. But I'll speak to what I did is, I would go back in meditations to like that terrible thing that happened. And I would sit in that space objectively as the person I am now. And I would go and lovingly take care of that sweet little girl, or it's find where I lost my power. What did I leave behind in that room? What did I give away? And then I recognized that because we're all connected, that person that I perceived that was victimizing me, like, they only did it one time. And then every other time after that was me. It was me and nobody else. And I could not blame them. And as much as I would blame them, let's say that, I was giving them power, and your bandwidth is connected. And it's just like, you constantly stay connected to that thing. No. So it's go back, rescue yourself, go meet yourself, that little sweet child, that little girl, that little boy. We both have the little girl and little boy. I was the tomboy, and I was also the, like, girl that liked to wear twirly dresses and spin around, which I highly recommend to all adult women. Go and buy a twirly dress. Seriously. It's just like embrace yourself, love yourself, and stop giving those things power. And it's no one else but you after that point. And I speak to that, and it's rewiring and recoding it, and know that when you are in that situation, there are emotional lenses there. There are times that, well, we don't have the capability to remember it exactly how it was, so it's a falsity anyway. It's already made out of delusion. It's not remembered accurately. So why are you holding on to the inaccuracies? And those holding ons, like I was talking about before, is if you stuff those issues, they're in your tissues, they reside in there. And stop it. And it's just that journey of not, of letting go of fear, of really, really constantly meeting your fears. And I did that. That's why I talked about, like, the other day, have you ever been skydiving? You talk about flying, right? Like, people are afraid to jump out of planes. That shit is scary, but it is fun as hell. Like, really, it's amazing, right?
Yeah.
But, so I face these things and mostly, like, put them to the external realities, until, like, I realized, like, very much I needed to meet myself. And I was afraid of everything. Literally, I was afraid of everything. And this is why, like, I was the type of person that had anxiety so high that led to non-epileptic seizures, led to a week of not even being able to speak, overwhelming amounts. So the stuff I'm speaking to is just what I've done to untangle all of that within. Our minds are computers. Literally, they work like that. You can program them like a computer. I always felt behind the times because I always like to work with my hands, so I just didn't, like, stay up with the times on computers. So I'm really behind on technology. I'm learning more every day, and I'm getting better at it every day, but I'm still learning. And I want you to hear how I said that, because that's self-affirmations and true ones. Like, I'm not good at computers. Like, I recognize that, but I am learning to do this. I have this compassion for myself that, like, when you speak to yourself of affirmations, it's building that growth of your truths. I am learning to do this. I am getting better at it. And not it takes away the fear of it, and also keeping it honest. I think with self-affirmations, we're so often told, like, I love myself, or, I am already here, this is how you manifest. It's kind of like The Secret, laws of attraction. Like, they kind of, they try and say, like, as if you're already there, and it's not true. And we're trying to break those lies we're telling to ourselves. And so reinforcing that goes against all of the programming, that the neuro linguistic programming that is absolutely necessary to get yourself to the next step. And so it's finding that compassion, finding that truth, finding the way, of where you are now. And there's solutions in everything. And stop identifying with the problems. There will always be another problem. Literally, you attract it. Yep, there's another problem. Yep, there's another problem. I mean, the world is duality, 50-50, 50% shit, 50% good, right? So yeah, it's really right now, like, when I speak to it, is learning to bring yourself that balance, that divine union has to be within you before it can be with anyone else, because that's coherence. I can't speak for Zach. Zach is all of who he is, right? And he does his own balancing, and I do mine, and we find that coherent spot. And it's the same with friendships. It's the same with anything. But really, that self-talk is huge. Self-talk before you go to bed, like, all day, and checking yourself. It's a discipline, and that word is often like discipline, and it's not. It's this practice that you're doing because you want something different, you want something more. And I also believe that we've been conditioned to be lazier than we actually are. And just challenging yourself and finding a way to have joy with that, as opposed to beating yourself up. You've been victimizing yourself for so long. Stop it. Stop it. You're so much more than that. And it's just like, recognizing when the thoughts come in, and again, not giving that power. Just like that person that victimized you over there, it's you inside of there, and it's letting go of these energetic like entities that have been running the show for a long time, if you will. Like this jealous person isn't actually me, right? So like observe what that jealous thing was, observe what is triggering it. Oh, that's my daddy issue, right? That has nothing to do with the other person. It's never the other person, it's always you. And that, I mean, I know that like things can happen, but I think that when you begin to create your realities and you start to take that power back, you no longer attract that. And the things that you choose to hold on to, again, the universe is listening, and it doesn't care about right, wrong, good, bad. It doesn't care. It's just here to serve you, pretty much, to create what you're creating. So when you're creating this bad, like traumatic things that have happened over and over again, the universe is like, all right, I'll give you more of that. So you keep attracting more of that. So I love the like these different great like Tiamat and Tara. Um, I like on my Instagram page, I have something I'm doing with my singing bowl, and I pull in Om Tara, Tutara, Ture, Spa. So that's Charlotte. Your mantras are awesome. You shared that you're learning mudras and mantras. That's awesome. They have such power in them. And I'd also, if they have power in them, so really do your homework on what you're choosing to resonate out into your reality. But when you start to work with these certain harmonics, the ta ra ah is your heart, man. That's your heart chakra. And so when you start to do that, you begin to open up and cleanse those energetic centers, and you start to get them working. And so yeah, that's my thoughts on Tiamat.
Awesome.
And
What a way to wrap that up. Yeah, perfect. That's my thoughts on Tiamat. Yeah, those are great ones.
yeah. So any other
Okay.
questions?
Do you see any in the chat, Zach?
Let's actually turn this question to you, Aaron. What has been your experience recently of the emergence of femininity inside of culture or the world or your own personal process?
All right, man. So I'll stream of consciousness here. I had like zero expectation that was coming. Okay. Okay, well, I guess I'll have to reiterate some of my own story in this dynamic because I guess for me, it starts in the womb. Maybe that's why I like womb space so much. Because I was born of 1% or one of 12% of the population who used both my left and right hemispheres simultaneously since birth. So I don't know, it has something to do with an epigenetic expression in my corpus callosum, maybe, that allows it to transmit data in a more balanced way or evenly or some shit. It lines up with the Mayan calendar, one of the calendars that I was born literally the month after the end or the beginning of one of the waves. And it's where that type of expression, apparently, astrologically, in some way is allowed to actually happen, whether more frequently or in certain dynamics. So starting there, being able to be born in at the right time in the right way in the right family and like a lot of little shit, and having being able to also have borderline narcolepsy disorder too. So being able to go into Delta within 2 minutes and which just I think helped me integrate a lot of information over time and process things really quickly. And anyhow, so I've always grown up, I guess, more aware of my emotions. I mean, you don't really differentiate as a kid too much, but I know I've always been I don't know, just like you feel what you feel, man. I've never like any shame over it. It's just is what it is. So like I cry at movies a lot and shit because it's fucking powerful shit, and I could explain to you fucking why. So it's like both. Like it's logical, I guess, too, but it's like just feeling that dynamic. And then I think so. Fast forwarding a little bit, so the whole dynamic of the marriage I was in a lot of ways, like me having to temper and really, I mean, like even what you were talking about, right? That I had to go 100% use her as a mirror when everything, when almost everything seemed to be my fault in some way, shape, or form, no matter what, at some level, right? It's like, okay, well, she's probably picking up something. It's probably not all projection, You know, it was probably something, right? And so like being able to go look for it and just like over time and just being able to go through that process, because the dynamic I was in, the value sets I had, I wasn't going anywhere for the time being. So it's like, okay, why don't I use it productively? You know, and again, having like certain constructs in place, like I'm not going to have an affair, I'm not going to do that other shit. So like, what am I going to do? I mean, just fix myself is probably a good idea, right? So, so doing that, and then being able to finally come to a place where, I mean, after several years of that, finding my own internal resonances and then beginning to really expand into all of this, which is interesting because I could see a big aspect of that beginning. The Saturn returns when you're 28, right, Zach? Usually? Or is it
What was
different
that?
for everybody? Is Saturn return, is it when you're 28 years old, or is it different for everybody?
You would just look at the, I don't know what it is off the top of my head, Saturn orbit length. 29 years.
Oh, yeah, it totally makes sense, man. That's when all my awakening stuff started happening, too. So, yeah, that totally makes sense. And borders or boundaries being loosened or opened up, right? That totally makes sense, man. Like going in, but the whole thing was going in. So, so I don't know. I feel like in that dynamic, I mean, I learned a lot of things. Maybe there's probably other layers and things I haven't perceived or thought about or considered or whatever. So I feel like that's kind of come to my awareness now. But I guess learning, because I was so in tune with my feminine side, I guess if you will, the emotions of that dynamic from such a young age, and then learning how to process them in that dynamic where, I mean, really, I learned how to genuinely be in love with her by the time I got home every day. Like, genuinely, right? I deal with my shit, my frustrations if I had any. Like, sometimes you go, like, it's just, you accept certain realities, it is, and I'm totally content within mine, that's fine. Other times there's intense rubs or different things going on, but like finding a way to perceive her, not just in the flesh, but after who she really was, and to speak to her in that way, you know? And to honor her in that way and treat her as if she was, because she is. Not like, okay, I'm doing this so you get better. I did. That's the byproduct, you know. Like not, when you're overflowing, eventually, in many ways, in a lot of ways around you, because it is sowing seed, it is watering. Doesn't mean they're absorbing the water. You know, doesn't mean they have fertile soil to put the seed into. But it is always giving. I mean, love, I don't feel like love is ever wasted. Sometimes we look back, maybe, you know, certain ways, maybe think we could use time differently, or if I was in a different situation, maybe that wouldn't happen. But whatever, man, if you're in a moment and you express love, compassion, care, and even if you know, you see where it's an extension of your boundaries. That, I mean, that's a differentiation here from the general concept of like when you're giving to the point of like overextending yourself, because it's one other dynamic. But I'm talking about in general, like anytime that you know, actually give with genuine compassion or care or concern in your heart. Like none of those things are ever wasted. Like I don't think etherically or any other way, shape, or form. I mean, those frequencies and resonances and emanations go out into the code, into the matrix, into the souls of other people, man. When you really connect with people. So that shit's never wasted. You know, so if you know that, like I mean a lot of the stuff in that relationship that I knew, I mean I knew for a long time that people may never, like really, I mean at this point, like really, I don't know if everyone could, without like full like telepathy, every minor detail of my life engagement from my perspectives and all that shit, like that's true for everybody, but like I could never really express like the amount of things that I learned inside of myself, right, and about her, and loving her not just as a woman but who she was very specifically, you know, finding ways when her soul would open up to like help that flower and to actually understand it, you know, and be present with it, and like just, you know, want to see that happen and hold whatever space, like balancing space I could be in that masculine way, so she could do what she needed to do, just be her, really, just like getting her to a place where she can be. That she had to deal with her own anxieties and all that stuff, and wasn't able to get past most of that. And so it just allowed me ways for me to outcreate and to find other ways. And like they always present themselves because I was looking for them, or I was aware of them, finding ways to honor her in the ways that she would receive in her soul, you know? So that's for me carried over into the when I left the Christian dynamic, when I found, I don't have the book on me now, but the Essence Gospel of Peace that I talk about so much, and it brings in the feminine, you know, Mother Earth, and it gives all these beautiful parallels. You know, our blood is her blood, and our, you know, it just goes into all the parallels and the different dynamics, and it's a complete balance to the whole patriarchal story from the traditional narrative. And I've always resonated with that. And I understood how to connect with the Father, or how to honor, how to have a relationship with beings or entities, if you will. They just have specific names and that dynamic, but that the principles are the same. And so when I switched over to like, oh, I can actually like, oh man, really, I think I maybe internally wept, if this makes sense. I'm thinking about it now, but almost to the point of tears, like for like, I don't know, a year, 2 years straight, when I like, it's more settled now. I feel this way like presently all the time, but like really being so happy about the fact that I can now like do offerings to Mother Earth, and like I can engage her like as an entity, because I'd never even thought to do that before. I hadn't been allowed to do that, in my framework. And then as I continue to build that, I'm like, oh shit, we've had a relationship for a long time. Hey, mama. As tune in, like past lifetime shit and whatever, and actually integrating and connecting, rebuilding relationship in this lifetime with many other lifetimes that have happened before. It's beautiful. It's like the most beautiful thing. I feel like I came out of the Christian paradigm understanding the father dynamic very, very, very well in a very beautiful and pure way. And it just totally carried over to the other side of my brain. And I just totally got it, man. I just needed some time to build a relationship with Mother Earth. And I got it, man. She's my mama. I'm her favorite. Like, I'm good wherever I go. Really.
That brings to an interesting point that, like, through ayahuasca, a lot of other things, even just like the environmentalism, we've talked a lot about like saving Mother Earth, doing things like this. And I think kind of that was the thing that first harrowed this rising of the feminine energy. I think in many ways it kind of came from a planetary level, and it looked a lot like, Mother Earth, we need to save her, etc. But we didn't really know how to do that because we were like toxic masculine. And we've kind of learned over, really this happened since like the harmonic convergence, late 80s, early 90s kind of time, that we've learned how to be like more nurturing to that. And we've realized that kind of like we don't need to like save the earth. We need to basically be like stand behind her and help her save herself. And she also symbiotically works with us to keep us alive. And I think coming to that balance has been a lot of that emergence. Your thoughts?
Because what's interesting, it's the exact same principle that we have for other people, right? We're not trying to save you. We're trying to teach you to save yourself. Why wouldn't it be exactly the same in any dynamic? Why would we need to rescue another conscious entity, especially one that's existing on multiple levels or dimensions in certain ways more than we are at this point in this incarnation? And we're on her body. I mean, there's a level of like honor and coherence you have with the planet that you're on, or the energy body that you're tied to in this vessel. And if you're not in coherence with that, or you're not in coherence, then how could you expect to ever operate completely, well, one, above board, obviously, but two, the most efficiently, like getting direct power routes instead of having to find back channels to get your energy, because you just don't want to actually do things in a way that's coherent with Mother Earth. And honestly, her restrictions aren't that hard. It's just people do what they want to do. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but it's a lot easier to go with incoherence with the planet that you're on, with the way the universe is going, and with all the beautiful shit that's happening in this new world that we're already creating and 5 episodes into the future on.
5 episodes into the future. I like that. You're still positive that we're living in the future. We probably are. We currently have 222 subscribers. That's cool. Hopefully that goes up by a 1,000 order of magnitude very soon. It's 222,000. That would be great. We got a lot of stuff in here. I think we're falling in love with Jen here. She's going to need her own podcast. She's going to have a show on here. We already got you. Waiting on. Actually, she's probably going to be on here a lot. Once I get my other like microphones and stuff here, we'll have multiple microphones that are set up on my setup. I'll be using a normal camera that has like actually widescreen thing, and probably Jen will be in here a lot and also doing chat, just because we'll have her set up on better mics and stuff like that. So awesome. That is definitely going to be happening.
Jen, you're gonna be on at like what? Because you could probably get all chatty with the girls. Well, you'd have to come on at like 7, so you guys talk for like 3 hours, or like, sir, what? Not 7. I was thinking Eastern. So like, what would that be, like 5?
Jen's probably going to be doing like a 5 o'clock spot or so, something like that.
Is that what I said? I just said 5.
Did you say 5?
Yeah, I just said 5. Right on, man. Yeah, it gives her like 3 solid hours right until our show starts. That's totally cool. Every night, right, Jen? Every night, you commit to that?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Fuck, man. That's cool. If we're all doing it, then I guess we'll get the energy going. It sure probably make it easier.
Yeah. I would agree. Yeah.
Fuck yeah, man. Let's
So
give us the
there is a
background.
question
Zach?
in here. Brittany is asking you, Jen, how much did plant medicine help you in your path?
Oh, actually a lot, a whole lot. I shared before about my journey into the jungle. So doing the ayahuasca and the ceremonies that I did of that was absolutely life changing for me. I shared even like last night how I can see how to reach in and adjust things within the human body, and there's so many more aspects of just internal, like ayahuasca was unbelievable. Like it's just like the messages that it gave me and taught me, and it was very fascinating because it was like I didn't even have to imbibe the medicine to like actually have the relationship with this plant, and so much so like I realized that that plant was like already, like it was already in me, like I already had all of that information. So the fascinating part of what I have learned, like I have such a connection to plants now. um this is like my big kick when people are all big time on vegan and all this, because the consciousness of plants is so freaking massive. And so when they're like sitting there going, oh, but the consciousness of the animals and all this, I'm like, yeah, but they all have consciousness. They're all in this, like, I can't see a difference. Um, when it comes to like psilocybin, there was a period of time when I was having those non-epileptic seizures for those 3 months that I microdosed psilocybin. I think it was for about 4 weeks. I can't remember exactly how long that some of that time is a little discombobulated, if you will, because I was pretty much deemed pretty well retarded, to be honest. My speech, like there was a lot that was that happened there, and the mushrooms were just unbelievably helpful, in the sense that I was in the deepest, darkest depression that I had ever known could have existed, and it was like when I took the mushrooms, like I didn't see psychedelically. Like I see the world psychedelically very much, but like in the time, it was more like these sweet, kind voices, just kind of like, oh, hey, your serotonin looks like a little low in here. What if we were to raise your serotonin up? What do you think about that? You know? And so, like, all of a sudden, I'd be like, oh, yeah. And so now I'm doing a meditation where I'm the chemist and I'm like balancing my chemicals in my body because I have that power. You know, I need a little less of this and a little more of that, you know, and I learned about my chemicals and got intimate with them, and it was just a very cool experience and a very welcomed guest that I had for that time. And let's see, um, combo. Oh well, that's not a plant medicine. What other ones? Marijuana. Marijuana was very helpful. Um, in the sense that it was just very calming. Well, with marijuana, there's just a lot of things like that I utilized as a tool. Like it helped me with eating, and it helped me with, like, it was this helper. She's the illusion maker. You know, she knows how to operate this illusion, if you will, and so there we just kind of have this partnership. I currently am on a cycle, full moon to full moon, of not taking in marijuana. So it's really like this real pure time for me. I can tell my throat chakra is cleared there. I have little, this has been an interesting thing
It looked like when your throat chakra cleared, it looked like rainbows and bubbles all at once.
I just totally had it. It's like Zach with his heart bubbles today. We were talking. Aaron and Zach were on Messenger with each other today on video chat. They decided to do the
filter things.
The filter.
Zach
Yeah.
decided to do it, so he was doing it for a while because I couldn't figure it out on my thing.
Yeah,
but
he
I
had this
got
one.
funny ass screenshots too. It was great, and I figured it out eventually. It was fun.
Yeah, it was this little bunny with these bubbles.
Yeah.
What other plant medicines? What other ones am I missing? Like that? Like those are the three major ones.
Well,
I'm
do
trying to.
Salvia.
Oh
Oh,
yeah, do
salvia.
salvia.
Oh yeah, that salvia. Salvia was really really rad. Like it was always kind of like a different experience with it. There was this one time that I smoked the salvia, and it's just a straight plant. It's not the extract. I really I don't recommend the extracts of salvia. I highly recommend just experiencing the real mother nature of this plant. Also, ayahuasca. They're all very feminine. Marijuana, ayahuasca, and also salvia. But I had this experience with salvia where I saw myself in I had shared with you yesterday about living in this like garage that was like an old train museum. So I was in that little small space and I saw myself in four different dimensions of myself. And I was like a different spot though. You guys are
There it
so
is.
silly. Um,
I would like to make note, if we're gonna break this all live, that he is playing dress up, wearing a tiara like a princess, a construct that he hates. It's very important to
I'm
know.
so pretty.
you're so pretty. Look at the
Distraction
pretty,
point.
pretty princess. It's a pretty, pretty princess.
And he was having fun, so I pointed that out to him in the call. And I go, I know you're screwed, right? Got you on a screenshot wearing a crown. And he had to think about it for a while.
Yeah.
Like, I'm taking it off.
He's like, no kings and queens, damn it. And he's like, I'm actually a queen. Just kidding.
Yeah.
He's not saying that. I
He
swear he's
kept it
not.
on. No, he kept it on. It
Yeah.
was funny. Yeah.
I want to make note to what Munchies is saying here. He says, weed has been my everyday medicine for years. It's helped me profoundly with anxiety, depression, and even weight loss.
Does weed make you see this, Jen?
Oh, yeah. Dude, oh my gosh.
And the guy
That
said
was them
the videos
today.
we listened to or watched of Tom Campbell. He wrote the book. What's it called? Big Toe or
My big
something.
toe. My big
Yeah, isn't that
toe.
funny? And he's laying
Yeah.
on his head.
Yeah. When he was doing this like flopped like this. It was
Yeah,
really,
dude.
really quite funny. I tried to do like here a little piggy piggy, but my hand like disappeared. It didn't well behind that, but
They're doing
yeah,
really well with them.
really
We'll have
nice.
to do. Nate and I did two shows, I think, because people enjoyed it so much. We did two shows in the Fearless group early on last July, where we spent like 45 minutes going through all the filters and just fucking ad libbing and fucking around with them, and it was fucking hilarious. It was a lot of fun. We ended up doing
Dude,
two. It was great.
so fun.
Yeah, we'll have to do
I did yeah, I did those filters with my niece and nephew a little while ago, and we sent it to my mom, and they were just so
it.
dang cute. And there's so many fun little filters. Yeah, it's rad. Rad. Okay, I want to respond to Mela.
Yeah.
I very much had the same experience with you. It has profoundly helped my anxiety, depression, and when weight loss. I feel like, yeah, in a sense that I really resented food. So when I would get to the food, it was very difficult sometimes to swallow it because my anxiety was just so high with it. And so, so high. So it profoundly like helped me just um, be able to eat easily. And so it's very like the longest break since my seizures that I've taken from marijuana was a 2 week period. I think it was last year. It might have been 2 years ago. I can't remember. Can't remember now. It was like a little while ago, and it felt good and fine. Like I can't really speak to that time, but now like doing it, I really like I definitely recognize like right away like that my like I couldn't really eat very well like the first couple of days, like I wasn't as hungry and like all these kinds of aspects that I realized how much the medicine had still been helping me. Or like one time we were on the phone and driving down the freeway, like I was like, I don't know this area yet, and they were talking away, and Zach's map questing. He's like, oh, it's this exit, like all these like slight, more trickery kind of aspects for me, and it's just like, and then it was this like moment where I was like, all right, okay, where I just like met myself with a little different amount of compassion, where I'm like, oh, you're doing this on your own right now. You're not having the assistance of your friend that you had there for a long time, being marijuana. And right now I'm very excited to engage myself for these like 28 days of this lunar cycle of just like getting that out. And I was also really fascinated by what Professor Key had said about when you smoke marijuana and how it projects the animas to your outside. And I consider myself an animist in just how I see animals, how I operate with them, how I see your anima as like we all have animas. So that layer is just very close to home. So I think I had already stopped smoking pot at the point Professor Key had said that, but I very much felt like that message was for me, where it was like perhaps like experiencing this like gift, if you will. I don't know what to call it. Like I have these really this anima, an animist, and so it's cool to engage myself. It's cool to just go, all right, time to breathe. You know, I've had like a lot of things that could be potentially really highly triggery. I've had, I'm very proud on the way that I'm navigating it. And so I think having like breaks is helpful so that you can see where you are. I think that you have that power inside of you and constantly giving it externally. You see, I have, I'll share this story as well, because like alcohol was also like a medicine. Like in tequila, they would drink it, and it was like for like medicinal purposes. And that with alcohol, it's a very masculine spirit. And what was I going to say with it? But la, 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 la. Why did I just lose this? Yeah, I didn't lose it. It's here. It's coming on. It's kind of like a divergence to like bring up alcohol because it's like a whole other topic for me. So it's like, do I want to go down this side to like talk about, which I don't mind talking about it at all.
I know the feel,
Alcohol is
bro.
just like, yeah, it's just like this very profound thing. Like, oh, I know what it is. Alcohol brings out all the things you're repressing. It like goes in and it brings it all out. So if you're an asshole inside and you're not speaking to it, all of a sudden you're like an asshole outside when you drink. Or let's say you're like happy and go like bubbly and you're like repressing that and you drink the alcohol. Now you're dancing on the dance floor and you're like a social butterfly. Like you like there's this like aspect to alcohol that is a very much a spirit that's like literally going in as a like a medicine. It used to be used. However, I feel that it is a very powerful medicine and should be really really considered when taking in and ingesting it, because you're giving your power away to the take snake, a very very powerful entity, the Al Ghul, and it is a very much spirit, and so for me, like what I found, because there was a period of time in my life that I drank very very heavy for 5 years, and it almost just took my life. So many near death experiences in my life. I'm so grateful to be here. But what I very much looked at when I looked at my actions and behaviors was that, like, because I was like that caretaker, I was externalizing everything that I don't know why I threw it like that. It's interesting. Why is it a struggle? You can't externalize these things. They exist within. The take snake was there to take the experience while it was showing you and giving you your medicine of what you were repressing. That's why the blackouts, that's why you can't remember exactly that or enacting that. But that is you. And if you are an asshole, those are the things that you're stuffing inside and things to look at. That's what you need to go heal. If you're happy and go lucky, like that is you, man. Go and do that without it. And so it has been a really, really cool journey to like not have alcohol in my life. And I even like tested it with myself where I ended up having a friend that like pressured me, did the whole peer pressure, drink this drink. And I hadn't had any alcohol for like 6.5 years, but I very much focused, there for a while. I mean, I drank very alcoholically, like 5 years straight. And so I went into the Alcoholics Anonymous program, and I worked the program, and I did that. And I became this like going to speaker meetings, like speaking at like huge congregations, and going to middle schools and speaking about this. And it's like all this stuff about it. But I was also working the steps that they were talking about, and I was digging on myself, and I dug on myself so much. I dug my way right out of AA. I found information where I was like, wait, this isn't true. It's kind of like what happened with me with being Mormon. It was like all of a sudden I was like, whoa, wait, this is not what I believe. Whoa, these symbols you're using. Whoa, AA, gematria. Okay. And then I started to realize that this program that I was involved in was actually a magical program created by Aleister Crowley. And the original alcoholic was not Bill W. and Bob whatever that they said, Dr. Bob. It was actually Aleister Crowley's daughter. And the Oxford group came in, and it was all of this orchestrated. So it was missing tons of information, and they were keeping the perfect amount of alcohol balance for society. So you have the non-alcoholic, alcoholic, that they're all worshiping alcohol, keeping you on the worship. And it was very fascinating, because all of a sudden I was like, dude, I'm externalizing that. I'm like, I would never do that if I was drinking. And all these lies were coming out of myself, because I absolutely would. And I found that out. If I was jealous enough, I would totally be that person, because I threw these emotional lenses on. Like, that was the other thing. Like, people, like, I like sitting there and be like, oh, I'm 6 years sober right now. I haven't had a drop of alcohol for this amount of time. It was like actually not true. I mean, the drop of alcohol, like, that was true. But I mean, like, sober, I wasn't sober. I hadn't dealt with like the jealousies and these like kind of starting with like the 7 deadly sins ideas, digging through that. Like, when I would enact a jealous behavior, it literally would throw lenses on, where you get angry and you're like drunk. You literally start slurring your words. Like, when you're so angry, you're blah, blah, blah. Like, it literally sounds like you're drunk, because you're drunk on your chemicals. It's the chemicals within that we're addicted to. It is not any of that external stuff when you set the drink down. And for a long time, for a while there, I was really resentful, because I like dedicated my life to this, and then all of a sudden, like finding out that like literally it was me, and that I had really technically been drinking all along. And so it was like this really fascinating thing, drinking my own chemicals, that is. And so, I mean, there was a lot of journey and process for me to like bring in plant medicines and things like this, because I was living a very sober life, and I was doing the meditations and all that. And like I said, I had been doing that self-work, like they had been telling me, and I started attracting people into my life like Zach, that just like, he didn't have to go, don't go to these meetings, don't go do this. It wasn't that. It was just like, all of a sudden, I just always say, question everything you believe, keep questioning it. Even if it felt true like 6 weeks ago, like, question it again. Like, there's always partial truths. And so I have the utmost respect for alcohol, like, for sure. Like, it almost got me. And but it didn't, it didn't. And it taught me a lot of things. So that really is like a plant medicine. And then tobacco. Tobacco is very, very interesting when we go to plant medicines. On that, America is just like, well, they put tons of chemicals on it, on the tobacco here, but like being in the jungle and actually working with the purity of tobacco, like the mapacho that they have there. I shared this story, I think it was in the comments a few weeks ago, and it was that while I was there, we use mapacho a lot for ceremony. I ended up getting bit or stung by a bullet ant in the jungle. And I don't know if anyone knows what a bullet ant is, but it is like the most, like, I watched this guy like do all these different kinds of stings around the world. Like, he would just took them and he tried all the different terrible stings. I think he put the bullet ant as the second worst sting in all of the world. So anyway, so I'm in the jungle and I end up stepping on this bullet ant, and it stung me. And when I brought my like foot up, like it felt like I had this like shard of glass in my foot, like this big, like I had stomped on it. And like imagine having glass in your foot stabbed through there, that kind of blinding pain, and you can't pull it out, like it doesn't exist there. And so, anyway, they ended up carrying me over to the couch, and the curandero, all he did was he grabbed the mopacho, and he smoked it, and he blew it on my foot, and he whistled, but he whistled the song, right, of the spirit of this medicine into there, and I felt that spirit go in, the masculine spirit of it, and kick the fuck out of that toxin in my body. A bullet ant sting takes you at least 5 days, they say, 5 days or longer to even have been able to walk on my foot. Within 20 minutes, I was walking. There was a little bit of tenderness for like the next 24 hours, but after that, it was done. So I began to change my mind completely on tobacco. I believe that tobacco is a massive protector and goes and kicks out shit that's not supposed to be in there. And so, yeah, I've worked with a bunch of different plant medicines, and I'm really grateful. It's been life changing for me. It's still pretty scary as fuck. I don't just like easily go say, oh, I'm going to go do this. Like we have all that medicine. I have to really get myself into a space and a position that now is the time. And also I do a thing where a lot of times I want to try and do this often by myself, not by myself, but well, I can do that too. You can do that too. It's just that belief and that digging and learning about it. So I hope that answered your question. Are there any other plant medicines, Zach, that I'm missing?
DMT.
DMT.
Did you talk about
Oh,
mushrooms?
yeah.
That's too good.
Yeah. There's where's DMT?
Yeah. DMT. I did. DMT was the one that showed me I was afraid of everything, actually, the very first time I ever did it. And it was like when I first had the experience, I don't think I took like a whole lot, but I was definitely taken out of my body into this world. And then when I came back, I hadn't realized that DMT, like once you came back to your body, that it was just done. But but it wasn't. My reality was like I walked out of the space that I'd been in, and I could just see the fractals, like the phi ratios everywhere, which I can still see, which is really, really neat. It was like it connected the phi ratio and the like how that allows this world to work. And then it also showed me that when I saw that, I was scared as shit, but yet it was the most beautiful thing that I had ever seen. And it was like, why would I be so afraid of something so beautiful? And that was like, because you're afraid of everything. And I knew that was what I needed to take the journey and face my fears. And that's when I started the external things, skydiving and whatever else, and just starting to engage myself and engage those fears. And when they come up, still again, engaging them because they're not real. False evidence appearing real, fear. So DMT, the like, man, you don't come back the same. It's like there's no difference between, like, you don't go anywhere when you live and die. It's all right here and right here. And I saw, oh man, I don't even know how to even begin on all the things that I saw. And I knew, like, the fact that we're right now where we are. I think the most profound thing I got with my last DMT trip is that we did it, guys. We did it. We raised the consciousness of the planet and where we're headed to now. We did it. Like we did it. And it was like I felt like there was only a few of us that had made it so far, and I could just see the few people, but we had hit the
Critical mass.
critical mass. Thank you. He knew what I was thinking right now. I was like, what am I trying to do? We hit the critical mass, guys. We did it. So this self-work that I'm talking about is just super crucial. That's the way you get to see it. It's the way you get to see it, whether you ingest the plant medicines, but literally the answer is self-love. And it was helpful because it just goes in and it shines lights on that. And I could see it. I could see how I was the computer. I could see how I was the machine. I could see how it was operating. I could see how potentially breathing literally isn't even real. I could see, which is a whole other rabbit hole I'm not going to go down tonight. But I just, like, I saw space time. I saw the light code and the language. I saw things. And I never stopped seeing them. So was it helpful? Absolutely. DMT was very fast. Like, I guess fast, like 15 minutes. Like 15 minutes to come back and like literally live thousands of years, like billions of years, like in eternity in that short period of time. And that's the biggest thing I would tell people. If you choose to do this, just be prepared that everything about your life most likely will change afterwards, but it will be okay. It will literally be okay. You are creating everything that you truly, your higher self wants. It's just clearing that trauma and DNA that's been like coded into us and recoding yourself. Really, you're coding yourself. You have that power. So I'm a big advocate for plant medicines, but I'm also a big advocate for those that don't want to. I think you can do many profound things with meditations. I shared about my Shiva and Vishnu meditation, my Judgment Day meditation, and that was not on any psychedelics at all. That was literally just with meditation. So, like, I have had profoundly psychedelic visions with that, and equivalent to any of the trips that I've ever had on any of the plant medicines. So, anyway, so I'll keep you posted, definitely, like, on the marijuana process of the 28 days. I think it's important that we share that stuff with one another. So that was just like my personal decision. It's going really well so far. I mean, like, you can see me on here. Like, I'm really calm, which is really cool. So, yeah. What else? Any questions?
Jack's got a photo of a DMT experience that you're describing.
Oh, okay. Oh, the same picture? No, that was me. Like, that makes total sense. Like, literally, you say the one that's up. Is that not the picture?
No,
Oh,
it's not
shit.
the whole time, but yeah, no, that totally does for sure.
That too.
Yeah, that one's been up for like half an hour at least.
Dude, I thought it was pulled down for a moment, and then I looked at it again. I've been watching like this camera up here. Anyway,
yeah.
What's the picture? What's the picture? Show me the picture. Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, love that shit. Me and Nate. It's funny is I don't know if Nate and I had seen a meme yet. Like we just cause we watch Rick and Morty all the time, and then we were smoking DMT like a lot, and so we were like, come on, Morty, 15 20 minute adventure in and out.
Yeah.
Like all right,
this is like what?
let's go.
Amazing. Like that. But I would say that I've actually never had a bad trip. I've had one time I was in a really uncomfortable situation that I shouldn't have taken it in. So I really learned my lesson that way. But I think that was important to like value, like to learn that it's important, like where you're at when you're making these choices to interact with them. Yeah. I see this stuff and I just have like floods back of like with ayahuasca, or even after DMT, like I have never felt such profound amount of love and the ability to spread that to the world. That like literally like because it was just a few days after the like Machu Picchu adventure that I had with Zach, my heart was opened. My heart was very much opened in the jungle. I had never experienced my heart. And that's why I couldn't feel it. I just didn't, just, it hadn't opened. It showed me that, like, what I had done is I had like taken all of the information that could have possibly happened and I filed it away, like every ounce, every document. Like I'm just this amazing filer, every amount of information. And it just like was blocking my heart. And I could just see these filing cabinets just like blocking all of it. So no one actually could get in because I had all of this information, which was like why they couldn't. Except sometimes there was this teeny little crack and someone might slip in, sort of, so that it gave me the illusion like I was letting people in. And really, they were just like, it's time to just like let that go. Like, yeah, you were perfect at it, which you were great at it, but that's like you don't need to hold on to that information already there, like to block yourself that way. Like you could never do that. And I would say that I got rid of my filing cabinets, or began that process. They were like saying, one time, also this Lee Purcell, he's amazing. He had done this tarot reading for me when I was in the jungle. Like he really is a curandero in of himself. He lived in the jungle with the Shipibo tribe as well, and he was just kind of doing this divination for me. And he was like, it's like you're carrying around this big box and it's beautiful and you've decorated it. And it's like the most magnificent box. And you put all these things in it of all the accomplishments and all the things, but it's time to put it down. It's time to put it down. Like you can't just walk around with this box. Like everywhere you go, it's going to hinder you from being able to have that progression. And so for like this metaphor stayed with me. I'm like, put the box down. Like when I sold my house, I'm like, yeah, I put the box down. You know, like this journey of like what it meant to like put the box down. And it also like reminded me too of like I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the Weber-Fechner law, and I say Weber-Fechner because it's German, but it's Weber in America, but Weber-Fechner law. And what it says is that if you were blindfolded and you were standing there and holding like 40 pounds, and like most of us could actually just stand there and hold 40 pounds. But anyway, so if you're holding the 40 pounds, and if somebody could come along at this point, and if they put less than 1 pound or 1 pound increments on top of this 40 pounds, you will not know the difference. You literally will, your mind will keep that 40-pound weight, and you could be standing there holding 200 pounds, 1,000 pounds in your hands, as long as it's at a ratio of 1 pound increments, 40 to 1 ratio. And that's basically the Weber-Fechner law. So I began to really apply that. Like, here's the box to carry around, you got to put the box down, right? Like, you don't know how much is weighing in there. Then I start thinking about my box in my mind, and I start thinking about, for example, my looping thoughts that I have. I keep thinking about this thing. Every one of those thoughts has weight. So how much weight does all of that have? And it's just time to put it down and time to let it go. And just starting to do that digging. Like, you just don't know how much that really is until you really meet yourself now. And then you'll go, I gotta set that down. It's too heavy. It's not worth, this should be easy and fun and playful. And that's what we're creating, love. It's so amazing to watch somebody fall in love with something. It is one of the most incredible experiences, right? So imagine a reality of being able to observe somebody falling in love with somebody falling in love with somebody falling in love, with no boxes, with none of those boundaries except for love, right? Boundaries, no boundary. When you clear away that wreckage, it's just spoken in love, right? So creating that image, and it's very profound to me to see the amazing people that are in my life today. And I'm grateful, all you guys that are there. Like, seriously, it is so rad that you're here. So, yeah, there was a lot that I learned when it came to ayahuasca, but that was definitely a few of the experiences. So anyway, yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
Well, that wasn't very much at all.
Yeah. Shoot, now I
It's
gotta
only
struggle to find.
it's only like an hour of stuff to say about that.
Yeah, now
Let me
shit,
think.
Jen, you're killing me, and now we got to figure out questions to ask you to get you to talk some more because you're not talking barely at all.
Oh shit! God, can
Yeah,
you speak up?
we're gonna have to have like a team meeting later, Aaron, to figure out ways to encourage Jen to be able to get words
Right.
out.
Yeah, we'll invite you to the meeting, Jen, and we're gonna encourage you to talk at the meeting too. I know you struggle with that, but that's the goal.
Oh man. No, I'm grateful that I have a voice today, and I'm grateful that you guys are providing a platform that allows me to share this stuff that I've learned. I
Yeah,
think
I'm
it's
grateful that we can give you a platform on the platform. Which really the incredible irony here that is becoming funnier and funnier to me is we're fucking using YouTube primarily, right? I mean, we got all
yeah,
our but like we're using their platform. It's awesome.
yeah,
But we're setting up our platform within it. So like you deserve your own show. You really do. I mean, you have like you carry your own resonance, and then you're gonna draw your own people. Like you need that shit for sure, and they need you, and vice versa. We're all healing the world, you know. So it's awesome that we can actually give you the space to literally do that. So as we cycle people onto the show, they're like, "Wow, you were an awesome guest. Want a space on the show? Sure, done."
sure.
And just give
Yeah.
it a go, man. Awesome.
Like I said, it's just so important that we share this information, like what we've
Yeah.
discovered and found, because these are all the clues for us to get to that next spot. That I think a lot of people talk about 5D, like we're going to that next dimension, and I don't think it's that. I think we're going to 0D. I think we're going to that 0 point, as we again, yeah. So views on this world. It's pretty rad going back to the ultimate creation. So Jen, you're great. We need you. Oh, Kala, thank you. I love you. We need you too. That is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Aw. Yeah.
Okay, I once ate a mushroom dipped in ayahuasca. It was definitely an interesting trip. I am really glad you brought that to my awareness. That'll be happening.
That is an
Just wanted to say.
interesting trip. Ooh, we would do salvia and mushrooms. That was a really, really good one too, Mello.
Cool.
Yeah. That is an amazing experience. I'd love to
Yeah,
hear
one
about it. I'd love to hear about it. I
one of my
love you and
favorites
trying to
out
be
there is I just call it like the triple S in my mind, even though one of the words doesn't start with S, but salvia, psilocybin, and sativa. Like
yeah.
sativa marijuana specifically, indica's not as good for it, but basically the entire idea is that you take like a small dose of mushrooms and then you smoke like a good bowl of sativa and you just mix it with salvia the whole time and then just basically
Yeah.
keep smoking salvia until like the mushrooms hit, the weed comes on, and then you blast off with salvia a little bit at the same time, and like the body feeling is you shouldn't be able to feel that good.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Awesome. That sounds
Yeah.
great.
That sounds amazing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, it's like an
Very
interesting
interesting.
thought. Like that is happening in my reality. I'm glad that's in my awareness now. This is always going to happen, but now I'm aware, and that makes it
Yeah.
extra fun.
Lots of fun. Cool. I love you. I'm glad to be back tonight. And you're on. Oh, Carla, that's awesome. It was really awesome to see you on when you were here with Paula Paula, and I was going to say you again.
Paula,
I shared last night, yeah, the Paula Kala show on where I resonated with that. So it's really rad to have you back in here tonight, Kala. You've been missed.
Speaking of Kala, while we're doing this stream, I'm actually working on the overlays for her podcast, which starts in the very near future.
When you do that, Zach, I like remember it sounds like you say something like that, and then your video, the 222, like the mind game end of your videos you used to record, like, well, yeah. Okay, anyway, that was awesome. Okay.
Mellow, you definitely could do it because the really like you. Okay, so I always use dried leaf salvia. I don't ever use extracted salvia. I personally don't really think that the spirit in the plant likes it. But also on top of that, Salvia divinorum or Salvinorin A is actually the per weight highest potency psychedelic on the planet. And it also has a very weird thing in the sense that it is one of the only drugs on the planet that has a reverse tolerance. So the more that you are affected by, the less you need in order to get the effect. So the idea is basically to just get a little bit of the salvia going. You really got to go after the dried leaf in order to get the full psychedelic effect. So you're really looking for like the good low dose mushrooms with a nice weed high and a little bit of a feeling of the salvia. And it's not like an out of your mind psychedelic trip or anything like that. It's just like the coolest chill couch mode you've ever had in your life. Like it's just so
Awesome.
nice. Like it's
That
so
sounds
nice.
amazing.
Pretty darn good. Cool.
So one thing,
Go ahead.
Jen, that I'm sure you'll end up talking about on your show more, but that people in here might be interested in because it's a little bit different than other things, is that you've worked with Feldenkrais a lot, which is a style of body healing that Jen will be able to tell us more about. But maybe you could explain like just like how you've used that and just how you feel it's different than other kinds of body work, and especially like pointing towards how it like works with the neurology and such. I think that would be interesting for people to hear about.
Sure. So with the Feldenkrais method, oftentimes it's not very well known, though it's been around for a really long time. And when I first heard of Feldenkrais, I spelled it Christ, like it was actually like Christ.
Okay.
But it's a Krais. Feldenkrais is one word, and it's a Feldenkrais method. And this man named Moshe Feldenkrais started it, and he was like a judo master, one of the last like trained under the like top 12 of the people that created judo. So there's like a lot of martial art in it, and Tai Chi. There's a lot of sensing. There's a lot of going inside. So the things that I've noticed that are very different with this kind of a body work and also like awareness through movement kind of lessons is less is more. Most of the time, people are like bigger movements, yoga. Oh, stretch more, 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 and it's the opposite of that. It's like what's less than that? What's even smaller than that? And all of a sudden, you start dialing it back to the like smallest amount of like connection to you. The very first class that I actually took in the program, not my pre-training cert, because I have cool stories about that too, but like in the class, the very first lesson we did was taking you back to your infancy, one of the very first things you ever did when you were birthed into this world. And again, like it deals with the mind, the homunculus fallacies, but going in and like the fact is your brain has no concept of time, so you might as well have been this baby like at this point. So we did this lesson where we just, I mean, it was so weird to meet these people, and then like now we're doing these things, but we were like suckling our lips like we were, because the very first thing that pretty much a baby does is learn to suckle, right? Well, why is that? What is that sensation? What is that? So dialing it back so far to just connection. So we just sat there, or laid there rather, on our mats, just like kind of pursing our lips, and began to like track that. I mean, even if you sit here like at your house right now and just do this, you can start to feel like all the things that are actually moving. You're like, whoa, whoa, wait, I can feel my neck is moving. Okay, all right, how much farther? And then you start to track it and realize you can't even move your lips without, let's say, your abdomen working. If your abdomen's working, then you can track it almost like all the way to the tips of your toes. Literally, the lesson takes you all the way to the tips of your toes. When you were a baby, the first thing you're doing is suckling, and you're literally working yourself all the way to the tips of your toes with just this one action. So very, very fascinating. And so when it comes to Feldenkrais, it's like things that are inverse. Like when you have a knot, let's say, like they would often say, stretch it out, stretch it out, stretch it out. But they like in Feldenkrais, we think the reason why it's knotted up is that it never actually completed its contraction. There was this girl that was in my class. Ironically, her name was Jennifer too. I don't know why that's ironic, but her name was Jennifer too. But she had joined the Feldenkrais program specifically to her son had cerebral palsy, and it was a really, really bad case. And she wanted to be able to learn how to work with her child. And so we were doing this particular lesson about how, like, the muscle actually just didn't complete the contraction. Excuse me. So her son, a year earlier, with his cerebral palsy, his hands had shut. And he had been doing every kind of therapy. And every day they had her stretch her son's hands out all day, like several times a day, trying to get his hands to go. Like, so your hands are stuck. And this is what the modality was. We got to stretch it. We got to stretch it. And the class were like, you need to complete that contraction. And so she went home that night. She grabbed her son's hand, closed it, and that hand opened up. A year of I don't even know how many therapists telling her stretch it, stretch it, stretch it. It is like almost in inverse to like what most the like therapies would have you see it. And even like that yoga, like I love yoga and I love doing that stretch, and I can feel like the energy is releasing, so it's like this balance, but there is like this ease back. You shouldn't feel pain with that. You should do less than that. It's like it's learning to stack your bones, stack your body, work with your neurological structure. It really focuses on the brain, neurological, and skeletal structure. This is what really drew me there, because like I had learned about the muscles and like different energy works, like Reiki, craniosacral therapy. At this point now, it is like literally specifically working with like neurological, brain, bones. Like I just devoured it. It was amazing. Um, and then I also realized that there was kind of something that was missing in that program, and that was the energy work. Like I believe if Moshe Feldenkrais had been alive longer, because I think he died in something like 1987, he could not have denied the chakra system into the work. And so when, heading towards the end of that program, I realized that I had gathered all the information that I needed from that program, and that there was more. Like I'm always learning, and I'm always like there. I want to learn everything, pretty much, it seems. So all the different healing modalities, but there is a lot of sensing in it. They just don't call it like energy work, but literally you go in and you have it connect. You sync your heart rates. You like even the different ways of the breath work. Feldenkrais is it's a fascinating program. It's hard to find the information because it's so really noetic to the person. It does kind of that same thing. Like it's not where you have that injury unless it's acute. It's like comes from the pinky toe. It really like taught that direction. Like if you can imagine it, anything is possible. It was kind of funny because I used to use this metaphor when I first was learning it, and I was like speaking to like some public people, like it was like speaking in, and I was like, man, what I learned is that even if you were like, let's say, hanging by the edge of a cliff, that you would literally have the ability to pull yourself up by a single finger. You would be able to gather yourself and be able to do this. And so I spoke to that, and I remember being in the jungle, and I told this guy that was there with us in the jungle about that. And I'm like, pull yourself up with one finger. And then some rock climber a couple years later literally was like pulling himself up by this one finger. And he's like, Jen, you were right. It really happens. And but it was very fascinating because I was using like climbing metaphors before I even met Zach, and they were just already resonating with me. And I don't know if many of you know, but Zach is a really, really brilliant climber and dedicated his life to it for quite a while. And so anyway, it is, yeah, Feldenkrais changed my life. When it first came, I was down here in San Diego. I lived up in Washington at the time, and I came down to do some continued education courses. And it was like all day, like 13-hour days, like for, I don't remember if it was a week or 2 weeks, but it was a long period of time. But so many of these classes I was going into was like talking about Feldenkrais. And if you go back to my notes, it literally said the Feldenkrais on the top of it, but it said, learn more about Feldenkrais. And I didn't for an entire year. I put my notes away. And then a year later, a woman ended up coming that I met, and it was a new client, and she was talking about working with a Feldenkrais practitioner. I'm like, that's very fascinating. I need to learn more about Feldenkrais. And next thing I know, they were having pre-training courses, pre-certification courses for the class. And I signed up for it. I paid the money for that immediately. And I was like, I'm not going to do any more research on it, even though I don't know much about it. I'm just going to go in, and I'm just going to see what I observe and sense when I go into that class. And when I signed up, it was about 3 months until that started. And shortly, like probably like days after I signed up for it, I ended up rupturing my Achilles tendon, and that's snapping the Achilles in two. And it was quite a long and arduous recovery, 3 months of not walking. And by the time the class came, I was only 2 weeks. I think I was still in my boot of just walking. I'm trying to remember if I was in my shoe. I can't remember. 2 weeks of walking, probably without boot, just put it there. But I was still walking with like a very severe limp. Like that, I still had a good, what was it, almost year worth of physical therapy to go. When you rupture your Achilles tendon, it's a process. I think maybe I look at it differently today than I did back then. But I was like following the protocol for sure. And then anyway, so I went to this pre-training course, and they used me as an example. They put me in front of the class, and they showed them how I was standing, and they observed how I was standing, and they could say, oh yeah, she's really leaning a lot towards this side. Look at what's happening with their shoulders, her pelvis, and all of these things they were pointing out. And I'm like, well, of course, I'm limping everywhere I walk. And so they end up putting me on the floor. They put like some foam rollers under my knees and my ankles, and they took this board, and they just like simulated me walking, right? Just with this board. And my brain didn't know the difference of actually being on the floor to actually walking. He took this board and like put it in between my toes. It's just like this thin board, and did all different kinds of things, but just like brought this sensory awareness, like brought in like just awareness. They say awareness is half the battle. Like once you bring that, like you're halfway there. And so he did the simulation of walking. And at one point, my foot like stuck to this board, my bare foot, and all of a sudden, my leg just goes up in the air, and my hip just like unwinds like this way and that way. And I'm like, dude, that's crazy what he's doing. But what it was, he wasn't doing anything. He was just like holding the board, and my leg was like, this is how we unwind, you know. And he was just facilitating that. He was allowing me to unwind myself, and that lesson took all of 20 minutes. Had me stand up in front of the class, and I stood. To me, it felt like I was putting most of my weight on my left side, the injured side. But in reality, I had actually evened myself completely out. I just hadn't been used to having weight on that side yet, and I walked without a limp. That lesson lasted for me for 3 weeks without like any pain. I would say, because then like the program didn't start for quite a while after that pre-cert. Then I did the physical therapy, so I don't know how much was like integrated with then the healing. I've tried lots of different modalities of healing. Anyway, but the Feldenkrais program, it blew my mind. It blew my mind how quickly you could unwind and heal yourself in that time. And it was really about healing yourself. And I also knew that was my other missing link. Like I had been spending all my time on, the physical rehabilitation aspect, the physical training aspect, the nutrition, the energy. Well, yeah. Anyway, Feldenkrais was amazing. And I'm grateful for the time that I had with it. And then I'm grateful to add more to it. Like I think there was a lot missing.
And that's what you feel like you really do with it now, is it kind of just refining off of what you had already learned with that, like adding other systems onto it to try and kind of like complete it?
Yeah, that's accurate. Yeah. I would say that when I do the work now, like it's like even being in the jungle, that wall between like we're just made up of atoms, right? And so like you can send your energy into this area and you can affect change in there. And so energy work is just absolutely crucial. The balancing of the chakra systems is crucial. Sound healing, it's a vibration. So I think that was a really good aspect to bring in. And I think each person is super unique when they come. If you stuff your issues, they go into your tissues, studying into the psychology, studying into the neuro-linguistic programming from the Monroe Institute, the information that even like with Zach, he's a brilliant man. I'm really lucky to get to learn from him. And so there's a lot of different healing modalities that I bring. I recognized right away, like even in the jungle, this was something that came to me, was like, there was no separation of placement. I had this one experience where I had this necklace that my sister had given to me, and I was wearing it. And in this one ayahuasca experience, I was just like sitting there. I ended up touching this necklace, excuse me, and all of a sudden I was like transported into like the middle of this waterfall. And in this waterfall, my sister came, and it felt like, if you've ever seen Beauty and the Beast, at the very end where he's like turning back into a man, where he's like brought up into the air, he's like, oh, and like there's like leaves that go like flying around him, and he's like turning into this kind of like man. Even though like I wasn't turning from beast to man, it was just that my sister and I were in this space together. And I recognized that there was no difference. I could have been in the middle of the Amazon jungle and she was all the way back in the United States, that there was no separation between that. And that connection was massive for me, like to understand that as much as I like having my hands on people, I can affect just as much change, whether I'm having dialogue, doing things on the phone with people, as I can with the body work. And I extra like doing body work, so I like to have that and keep that in my life. But I recognize that it's a human thing that I like to do.
You extra like it? Like, so there's like a like, and then there's extra like?
Yeah, Zach, there is an extra like.
Is that like on Facebook Messenger when you don't do like the normal thumb, you do like the big thumb?
Absolutely. It's the big thumb of it. Yeah, it's like, mm-hmm. Yep.
That's perfect. Well, let's see, it's about 11:11. We've been doing this for nearly 4 hours. Maybe we call it, Aaron comes in with 14:14, Frank.
Isn't
It's true, East Coast.
it 3 hours?
Yeah,
I'm
right.
not sure what you mean by isn't it 3 hours?
12:12, so 2 a.m. Military time is 14.
No. Zach said we were just did this for 4 hours, and I just said, wait, is it, if it's 11:11, wouldn't it be 3 hours? Because you start the show early.
Stream has been live for 3 hours and 43 minutes and 3 seconds.
That's right. I got it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's true.
She's true. Oh man, this is so bad. Okay, before we go, if that's what you're trying to do, there's I wanted to share with you guys like one of the healing things, like a healing story of something I did for myself that was kind of weird. Like, because I talked about like my weight loss that was like strange. Like I didn't go about it to like just like think that I was gonna lose weight like that. There was like this time where, and it was like, if you were listening to my story yesterday, it was right after I told somebody that I couldn't help them anymore and I needed to help myself. And I was sitting in the house. Zach was there. I was I just had this thought come to me where like I read a lot in public, and I would go speak a lot in public, as I had said before. And so I thought about like our chakra system and how every chakra has a sound. And then, and I had already been working with my harmonic tonings when it came to that. And I just thought, what if when I was reading, like in this public place, could I accentuate the vowel sounds? Because like it would hit the different chakras to the room that I was reading to, and like maybe raise the consciousness of the room. And so I was like, well, how would that sound? And so I like grabbed my animal medicine book that was in front of me. I don't remember what animal I read. I just opened it up. And back then I used to wear glasses. And I had like 9 different kinds of glasses, like pairs of glasses. Like I was like, I like really, I always wore glasses. And but this day, I didn't have my glasses on, but I was like, I wasn't really thinking about it. I was thinking about the harmonics, and I was like, I'm gonna grab this book, and I open it, and I begin to read this book just with the intention of trying to make it not sound weird. And so as I was reading it, all of a sudden the line that I was reading like shot straight out, like as far as like a football field. It became like the teeniest little line that I like it. You know how they say that a hawk has such good eyes it can read like a line of a newspaper a football field away? It felt exactly like that. I felt like the hawk looking at that line, and every part of me was like, don't look away, keep reading. And so I just kept going. I'm like, this is so weird. Like this line is so far away and it's so small, and I'm reading it. And when I'm getting to the end of this line, I'm like, do I just keep going? Like what happens? And so right when I get to the line, I'm like, okay, I'll keep going. And the moment I shift my eyes, the line darts back, and I like start to read again, but I noticed something was very different. Everything was clear. My eyesight was absolutely clear. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I like set the book down. I'm like, okay, I'm done reading for a second. Like I hadn't even like gone about it for myself. I was just thinking, how do I raise the consciousness in a room for other people? And here all of a sudden, like my eyesight was just like perfect. And then all of a sudden Zach's like, hey Jen, you want to go grab some food? And I was like, yes. And so we go get in the car and we go driving a little ways away, and we get to this roundabout, and in every part I'm like, I don't want to jinx this, but this is fucking insane. Like everything is clear. And finally I'm like, Zach, I don't know what just happened, but I'm pretty sure I just fixed my eyesight, and I've never worn glasses since, which has been very fascinating. And this is but I will say that clues on the emotional lenses, that when I get emotional about something in a healthy way, if you will, like that's like inaccurate, I create this prism, my eyes will get a little foggy. And I like it because it's an indicator, and I'm like, ooh, what's going on there? My eyes shouldn't be this way. And I know they're the emotional lenses. And I go and I clear those, and my eyes remain clear. My eyes remain clear. And so anyway, that was a really amazing healing story for just myself.
No kidding. Beautiful.
Yeah. Another like best healing story that I had that I thought about later too was Sasha, our dog. She ended up passing away, but she was like what was she, 120 pounds, or no, maybe not that much, like a very big pit bull. 75, 80 pounds, Zach? I can't remember.
Yeah, 85 like the
85.
last time that we weighed her.
Yeah. So she was big, awesome dog.
Yeah.
But she lived to be 16, and most dogs just don't, like that are big like that. They live to maybe 10, 12, so she lived as long, like it was awesome for as long as I had. Either way, this was several years before she actually died. She ended up forming, and this is right during my awakening, right during the judgment days, right when I'm like, I can't help you, like this eyesight thing. All of this is the same time. Sasha ends up getting this tumor on her side that literally distended her. Like her body was just curved, and she was in so much pain. Like we couldn't even like get her off the bed. And so I like canceled all my appointments, and I spent 3 days doing nothing but like meditating with her. And I, at this time, here's another mantra, I was doing the Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. I was just coming into that Lotus Sutra and learning about it, and I chanted for 3 days straight, and I'm just like massaging. I'm telling her, like, if you need to go, like, I'll take you to the vet, whatever you need. But inside my mind, I just created this like the greenest, most loving space. Like, this dog had the biggest heart of any dog I still have yet ever encountered, literally. And so it's like the space was just always just filled with green. And I just promised her, I was like, man, whether we're in this spot right now, like we're running on the beach right now, whatever you need to do, I help people transition. I help animals transition. That's just part of this journey. And so I'm like telling her, like, I'll go play on the beach with you here, or like if you really want to live more, like I will instantly take you to the beach. Zach had said that was like one of her favorite things. And so I just kept that image and that like of us like running on the beach and just like these things to live for and love, and kept that space. And I just kept chanting the Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, like I had the binaural beats and the whole 9 yards for 3 days. I didn't leave. I didn't do anything other than just love on her and do whatever was necessary. And after that, she got up, and that started dissipating. The very next day, like we were like, as we promised, on that 4th day, we were like driving her to the beach. She was then trotting on the beach, and that tumor was completely gone. It was completely gone. It's kind of like that video that you had everyone watch. It was very much like that, Aaron. Very much. But they did it in 3. They did it in 3 minutes. I did it in 3 days. They were a bit more efficient than I was when it came to this worldly time thing.
Well, they had 3 of them there too, so it makes a big difference. But yeah, that's a beautiful story. I mean, just the fact that you would take the time to actually cancel appointments and spend 3 days with an animal. I mean, just that alone, I mean, is profoundly moving and healing. And the fact that you also got healed, fuck yeah, man, that's the world we're living in. Fuck yeah.
Yeah. So I share that stuff because we're all healers. We all have the ability to do that, and just play with yourself.
Yeah.
All aspects. I mean, like literally.
You heard it here first, everyone. Just play with yourself.
Just play with yourself. I thought that's a Building Christ thing too. It brought play. Play is very, very important, and it's just like intuitive. It's just like that thing. I didn't go about it to fix my eyes, but my vessel knew that was something that could be fixed, and just trusting that, like, we could fix anything. We could fix anything. So, if you can imagine it, anything is possible, for sure. Yeah. But those were the 2 stories specifically that I thought about, that I was like, oh, I could share that with them. I would like to do that, because that was like really like profound healing things, and I think that everyone could do that. So if you take that information, take it inside, and love yourself and find your miracles. So
beautiful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again, Gentilly, for coming on and captivating everyone with your gentiliness.
Yeah.
Your gentiliness.
Yes. Somebody asked if I would play my flute.
Oh, fuck yeah, please do.
It went really fast. I think it might have been Willow.
No, it's
flute. LOL. Okay. Soundful. Ha ha. Oh wait, mellow. What? Oh, maybe they weren't asking. What is the flute?
No, that was a question to me. Like, are you going to play the flute? And if it wasn't, it's a question to you now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I can absolutely do that.
Cool.
Sure. Sure. I'll be right back. Hold on. You guys talk for a minute.
Ah, shucks.
All right, so we will probably let her play us out with the flute once again. So this will probably be our outro here. This has been a fun episode as usual. We got a bunch of cool stuff coming up starting Monday. Stuff starts with Kala and Angela. We got new mics and stuff set up over here, better audio quality, all kinds of cool stuff coming. Aaron's going to be down here in the future. We're going to be doing some like podcasts where all of us are actually in the same place. We're going to be having other people from the community over here and other people who generally aren't in chat that are also part of our community close to here, and all kinds of cool stuff coming up in the future. We are so thankful for having you guys here to be a part of all this. You are the whole community is the whole reason why it happens. Everybody is an integral part. Everyone has an experiential value of one, and together, hopefully, we can be a very successful one. So thank you very much for being here. Expanded Understanding, back every night at 8 o'clock. Bunch of new stuff coming up. Love you all. Here's Jen playing flutes and probably Aaron to say something after me.
I was gonna let it go, but all right. Yes, everything Jack said, I ditto that 100%. And also, please like, subscribe. That does help us a lot. Also, in the links below, the original People's Tribe that both Zach and Jen have been to. That we are $900 feeds the whole tribe for 2 months, so $450 for a whole family for a day. So if you can do a monthly subscription, which me, myself, and actually I think several people in the group already are since that started, that'd be fantastic. Or a one-time through the GoFundMe. All that stuff's really important to us to practically do those things too. And I love you guys very, very much. And we will see you in 20-ish hours.
Yeah. I love you guys. Well, this flute that I play is from the Amazon. They showed you that before in the Shipibo tribe. Like you said, it's just $4.50. Actually feeds an entire family for a month. So if you enjoy this, like they're the ones that brought this. I wouldn't be able to do this for you tonight if it wasn't for them. And also now for me and the time that I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for all of the medicine that we all have at our fingertips, literally. So I love you guys very much. And this is for you. Oh man, I have to say thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to do this. I think that we all needed this as much as everybody else. Layla, you are amazing. I've heard so like about you through just kind of the grapevine, and it's really rad that you're here tonight, and that in some way we're kind of meeting because I've heard of you. Gosh, I really, I'm honored. I'm honored. I feel like there's one more song, so I'm gonna play one more, and then I will go. Yeah. Good night, guys. I love you so very, very much. And I hope to see you tomorrow. Can't wait to meet you in person, Jen. You're such a magical person. Well, I can't wait to meet you too, Kala. Munchies with Mellow, so, so beautiful again, Jen. Thank you, Munchies. Mellow, sorry. Thank you, Jen. My son and I are enjoying this. It doesn't want to go to bed. Aw. Well, oh man, so fast. Beautiful, and thank you. Jasmine, that's rad that your son was listening to that. All of this is all being shared, and how cool. Thank you for sharing that with your son too. And even if he doesn't want to go to bed, here, this one's just for Christopher, little Christopher. I was like, time for bed now. Anyway, oh man, I love you guys so much. The one thing I wanted to say to Mello, I tried to look for you on you like my healing page. I would like to connect with you. If you could friend me, I would love to have a more connect. And all of you guys, anyone that wants to message me, like I said, Facebook friend me, I cleared my space because I was at max of 5,000. So my page is open to have more come in. And again, good night, sweet dreams, whatever time it is. And thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm honored. So good night. Good night. I don't know. Stop cam. Okay. Because that's what I do.